What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 4MB, Chapter 66. Next time, definitely, seeking collection, recommendation ticket. Advertisement. Ahem. The sharp-eyed soldier coughed slightly, looked back at Lucar's position, and found that he hadn't noticed this side, and then began to tell his findings. Didn't you notice? The wounded soldier is not a new soldier recruited by Vice Admiral on Hera Island. It seems to be called Douglas Bullet, right? Damn, it's that arrogant kid, he's really strong. No, it's him. How to become like this is too miserable, I didn't recognize it. Brother, your eyesight is okay, you can see it all this way. The surrounding soldiers all talked and followed the reminder to find that the wounded just now was indeed very similar in size to Bullet. Nonsense, who am I? I am an observer on the Boulder Commodore warship. I can tell that the wounded is a kid named Bullet at a glance. Didn't you find that he still has a white glove on his hand and a black headset on his head? Quote. The observer soldier explained. The so-called observer is the sentinel on the ship. The soldier with the best observation ability can hold this position. It usually needs to observe all the movements on the sea, which has a great test of eyesight. Hey, then tell me why this soldier named Bullet was injured so badly. The observer soldier continued to ask questions, which once again aroused the curiosity of other soldiers. Hurry up, we are all soldiers, stop the ink. Well, let me just say that the boy named Bullet has a haughty face after he recovers, as if no one looks down on it. I guess, I want to challenge Commodore on the desert island. You talk about the strength of Commodore, it's not easy, in half a day, I was beaten like this. The observer soldier chuckled. No way, it's also our crew member anyway, how could Commodore commit such a cruel hand? The soldier next to him was a little puzzled. Think about the degree of Commodore's shots on the island of Kara. That's really ruining and powerful. It's probably too much to overestimate that Bullet, but it's just one move. Furthermore, when did you see the scene where Boulder Commodore was fighting with us? When there is a strong enemy, Commodore will fight alone by Boulder, just because he is too strong to accidentally hurt us. Hearing the observer's explanation, and thinking about Lucar's behavior before, it seemed quite reasonable. Oh, you're right, Commodore is so powerful, we don't even have the qualifications to cooperate in the fight. Sigh, haven't you heard the instructions of Chief Nishizawa? Even Chief Nishizawa can hardly participate in the Battle of Commodore, but Chief Nishizawa is the deputy of our warship. We are to cooperate with Chief Nishizawa to become a megalith. Commodore's strongest backing of justice. Affected by the excitement of some soldiers, other marine soldiers were also mobilized, and finally their voices became louder and louder. What are we? We are Commodore's strongest backing for justice. A sudden shout came from the cabin where the soldiers entered. Lucar heard the shouts of these soldiers with a dazed expression on his face. Winking face. What happened? I didn't seem to have done anything, didn't I just let them disband and go back? Nishizawa did it. It's not right. Didn't Nishizawa go directly to the infirmary with Norris? I didn't see that he gave orders to the soldiers. Scratching his head, Lucar couldn't think of the reason for the sudden excitement of the soldiers. Advertisement. Normally, he doesn't have much contact with the soldiers, and Nishizawa is basically in charge. Occasionally, he shows up and greets him to increase his sense of presence and let them know that there is a captain. It stands to reason that these soldiers should support Nishizawa with a higher probability, but they are cheering for the captain who has such a weak sense of existence. Forget it, if you can't figure it out, I don't want to. Let Nishizawa take care of this kind of thing. Thinking of Nishizawa's help to deal with various things, I feel much better. Hugging his head in both hands, he leaned against the fence of his warship, looking up to admire the night view. Lucar, what are you doing here? The doctor said that if it wasn't for Bullet in good health, you would have been beaten to death. Did you forget that he was still your crew member? After Nishizawa and Norris arranged Bullet's treatment, they walked out of the infirmary and saw Lucar's leisurely appearance, and couldn't help but vomit. He had the same picture in his mind as Norris, and when he arrived on the desert island, he saw, Chengwei is playing fortune. Haha, it's fine, I will pay attention next time. And next time, Norris Rear Admiral exclaimed. He didn't think that Lucar actually planned to have another time. It was hard to understand the injury of Bullet. Don't worry, Bullet has very strong physical fitness, and now it has reached the threshold for armament hockey cultivation. After that, it will still need to continue to improve in physical combat. I will pay attention to the severity. This situation will not happen today. Lucar quickly explained and assured him, comforting their worries, that he had no plans to change his next training plan. Now that Bullet tells himself his goal of becoming the strongest in the world, he will try his best to help him improve and make Bullet the strongest path possible. And Lucar himself needs an opponent who can bring himself some pressure to move forward. Well, now that you have a plan, I won't advise you anymore. Pay attention to the severity of your actions. Knowing Lucar's character, he rarely regrets the decisions he made, so Nishizawa stopped persuading him, just reminded him a little. Don't worry, Nishizawa, when it comes to Hera Island, there has been no recent trend. Lucar remembered that it had been half a month, and it seemed that there was no movement. He didn't believe that the CP department and the Kingdom of Arad were not doing anything. Nishizawa shook his head. No, since we left until now, I haven't received any news from my side. It seems that Sengoku Admiral helped to deal with it. Well, you deserve to be Sengoku Admiral called, the resourceful general. Lucar sighed. Fortunately, at the time, Nishizawa reminded him to report the matter to Sengoku Admiral in advance, otherwise the trouble would be more troublesome. Why, you went to the kingdom of Arad and ran into someone from the CP department. Knowing from the information in the conversation between the two, Norris asked with some confusion. Oh, don't mention it, it's just a bunch of damn rats. Sengoku Admiral kept me stable for a while, and he was responsible for helping deal with the troubles on the world government side. Well, your approach is correct. Sengoku Admiral has always been biased towards us. Fortunately, you met Sengoku Admiral. If Marshal Sora takes charge of Marine, then you will really suffer. Norris nodded. He has spent his whole life in Marine, and he knows the situation inside Marine very well. It is clear to Sengoku that it is basically watching the opponent promote to the position of Admiral step by step. When he was young, he was not a marshal at that time. At that time, Marine was basically completely controlled by the world government, which can be said to be another CP department. Well, I really have to thank Sengoku Admiral. Lucar understood what the other party meant and nodded. This time he really planned to keep a low profile for a while, not wanting to cause trouble to Sengoku Admiral. Chapter 67 New Year, Seeking Collection, Recommendation Ticket. Advertisement. In the waters of Kola Island, 80 kilometers away from the main island, there is a desert island that is only 1/5 the size of Kola Island. On this desert island, two strong men are fighting each other. Armed combination devil form. One of them was a strong man in a black military uniform. The black armament hockey on his body merged with his ghostly energy, and his whole body turned dark blue. Haha, Bullet, your fruit is not bad, then I'm not welcome. Earth armor. On the other side, a burly man in a white military uniform, with yellow-black armor condensed on his body, exuded a sense of dignity. Looking from a distance, he looked like an extremely sturdy heavy tank. It was Lucar and Bullet who arbitrarily collided with each other using physical skills on this desert island. The battle lasted until the night, and finally Lucar was knocked to the ground by a shock wave of a rock fist gun with Bullet. Lucar did not continue to pursue this time, because today is also a special day. In the evening, Lucar arranged a party and invited all the soldiers on his warship to a party and carnival. Even if today is the last day of the year, after today is a new year in this world, see Circle Calendar 1492. As the last day of the new year, Lucar took this day as a new year holiday and wanted to celebrate with everyone. In his mind, his crew are considered relatives and friends. Basically, they will spend most of their lives together. Everyone puts life and death on this boat together. Of course, they have to take advantage of the opportunity to reunite. In the past few years at West Blue, Lucar has been alone, especially at the time of the Chinese New Year. He is even more lonely. There is no need to choose the New Year's reunion festival. When he graduated from Marine, he only drank a little with Zephyr and Nishizawa on the night of the Chinese New Year. Let's go. Go back to the warship, wait for a drink together. Lucar pulled Bullet from the ground and looked around the desert island. They have been training on this island for several months. This deserted island has no vegetation, only bare reddish-brown rocks, one by one, all over the island. Yes, this island is no longer the desert island where Lucar first landed. This desert island is the third desert island training site he and Bullet used for training. It has been more than half a year since the two played on the first desert island, and see Circle Calendar 1491 is about to end. As for why I came to this deserted island now, I can only say that the other two deserted islands before now no longer exist. The first desert island was trained by the two for about 3 months. Lucar felt that his armament hockey had been greatly improved. His strongest, Starburst, ability could last 3 minutes on his fingers. Time. It is 3 times higher than the first minute, and the most important thing is the improvement of armament hockey. The powerful armament hockey can firmly condense the power of the Earth's core on the fingers, and will not burst easily. Then Lucar was somewhat swollen trying to condense the power of the core of the Earth to the palm of his right hand. Obviously, his goal failed, and the first desert island became a victim of his experiment. Even Bullet nearly drowned at that time. On that island. Later, Lucar found a smaller uninhabited island in the north of Kola Island, relying only on the calm belt. At that time, Bullet had already learned all Marine 6 styles, and he couldn't help but marvel at the opponent's talent in physical skills. Advertisement. Marine 6 style seems to be something that Bullet is born with. After only teaching it once, the opponent can simulate a similar effect on the spot. After several trainings, he has learned all the various skills. On the second island, due to the geographical advantage, the two came to Calm Belt by using moonwalk and began to search for Sea King's monsters for battle training. In less than 2 months, the two killed many Sea Kings, resulting in a large amount of Sea King's blood in that area. Attracted a large number of super large Sea Kings to attack, and finally the poor little desert island was directly sunk by Sea Kings. Even Lucar both used moonwalk to escape in a thrilling manner and almost died there. For the first time, he discovered that there are more terrifying existences in this world than the strong on land, even the so-called power of nature. It is difficult to shake these super large Sea Kings. He even began to suspect that in this pirate world with a vast expanse of sea, these giant monsters on the bottom of the sea are the masters of this world, the real planetary rulers. At the most thrilling moment, a giant Sea King looking like a frog jumped out of the sea and flew directly into the air to intercept the two. Fortunately, at the most critical moment, Bullet awakened Conqueror's Hockey, stunned the Poseidon, and let the two of Lucar successfully escape. After that, Lucar cancelled his plan to hunt Sea Kings in the Calm Belt. He didn't want to lose his life directly in the mouth of these monsters. Finally, I found the current island on the remote location of Kola Island, serving as a special training ground for the two, and it has continued to the present. Looking back on this more than half a year, Lucar felt extremely precious, giving Bullet and himself plenty of time to strengthen himself. Without any interference, he was purely training himself, as well as the daily duels of talented and powerful men like Bullet. He even wanted to stay here. Captain, you have become stronger so fast, I thought I could catch up with you. Bullet followed Lucar towards the warship. Lujonin couldn't help but exclaimed. He thought that his training was already hellish, but he didn't expect the captain to be the same, even more than his own training volume, and he didn't need time to recover from exhaustion. Ha ha ha. I want to catch up with me, but I'm still far away. Do you know that in our marine, there are still two monsters of the same age as me? What? There are two marines of the same age who are as strong as you, the captain. Bullet looked suspicious. He also understood that the captain's strength was relatively top-notch. Some people couldn't believe what the captain said, thinking he was motivating himself. It seems that you are only concerned about training. You didn't read the news from the newspaper. Besides me, there are two marines, Akainu, and Kazaru, these two guys. You don't want to think about how I could have beaten the world's top powerhouse Jabba by myself at that time. Lucar gave an explanation, thinking that he and these two guys hadn't seen each other for almost a year, and it seemed that he could occasionally hear some news from Akainu, while Kazaru, this wretched guy, hadn't heard of it for a long time. It seems that Kazaru was recruited by the world government after graduation. Did this guy leave Marine? There was some speculation about Kazaru's whereabouts. Although there was some conflict with Akainu, he had the most contact with Nishizawa and these two guys during the year of Marine training camp. No way, Captain, I thought that the news was deliberately targeting you, and deliberately put two Marine lists on it. Captain, next time I have a chance to challenge these two. Bullet thought that there were really strong players of this level in Marine, and couldn't help being a little excited. He didn't know if he had the opportunity to challenge them. Chapter 68 Meeting after the year, Seeking Collection, Recommendation Ticket. Advertisement. There will be a chance. I have never tried to learn from these two guys. At the time, everyone was Logia fruit ability, and the scope of damage was too great. Teacher Zephyr refused to let us learn from the training camp and graduated in a blink of an eye. There has been no chance. Speaking of this, Lucar looked regretful. In addition to having a fight with Sakazuki on Kola at the time, he was finally interrupted by Jabba's attack. He didn't have a chance to be separated from these two guys until graduation. Have a discussion. Haha, they have been separated for so long, I think they have been overtaken by you, Captain. After more than half a year of hard training, Bullet is very confident of Lucar's strength. He does not believe that the other two have made such a big improvement. Maybe, I'm not sure if there is still a chance to compete. Lucar is a little casual now, he doesn't think that the two guys have such a leisurely life of themselves, and they actually have more than half a year to exercise themselves. Lucar, Bullet, you are finally here, come up quickly, you two are left behind, Lao Wang has already made dumplings. Nishizawa waited for the arrival of the two Lucars on the deck of the warship, and immediately greeted him when he saw the two figures. Dumplings. What is that? Bullet curiously said. Haha, that was the delicious food that I had to eat during the holidays in my hometown. In order to find a chef who can cook this, I specially dug up the old Wang from the base of Kola Island. Lucar smiled with satisfaction. Yes, in the marine base on Kola Island, Lucar met a chef who can make buns from the West Blue Flower country. Later, he specifically asked Zeiss to help dig them from Norris Rear Admiral. This time, under the guidance of Lucar's request, he was very satisfied to make dumplings, a traditional food from the past life. Entering the cabin canteen, all Marine soldiers were sitting around, leaving an empty table in the middle. Come on, all Marine brothers, let us welcome Commodore. Nishizawa walked to the table first, raised the wine glass on the table, and cheered. Roar, Boulder Commodore, I want to toast you. As Lucar and Bullet walked into the canteen, the atmosphere suddenly reached its peak, and many soldiers cheered and wanted to toast Lucar. Haha, today is a happy day, I will accompany you to drink until dawn, you just come and see if I can drink you. Lucar straightforwardly drank a bottle of wine, and then took Nishizawa and Bullet to fight the wine one by one among the soldiers. To be honest, for so long, this is the first time Lucar drank so happy. This banquet lasted until the next day, which is C Circle Calendar 1492. Hey, Lucar, you be asterisk 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 D, if you want to drink alcohol, go by yourself, why do you take me with you? In the captain's office on the warship, there were 3 Marines. Nishizawa pressed his head and vomited. After the banquet last night, he has only rested for 4 hours. Seeing Lucar and Bullet sitting on the sofa unresponsive, they couldn't help but utter a monster in their heart. Haha, it's rare to have a good time together, especially for those of us who are desperate at sea all year round. Who knows when we die at sea, and the string that has been tight has to be relaxed occasionally. Lucar smiled happily. He seldom sees Nishizawa drinking too much. As the brain position on his warship, Nishizawa has always kept sober except for everyone. Advertisement. Not only the Marine soldiers, he felt that Nishizawa also occasionally wanted to relax. Forget it, don't talk to you, don't pull me again next time. Nishizawa tried to relieve the pain in his brain after the hangover, and began to calm down and talk. Lucar, we have been settling for more than half a year. I guess it won't be long before the headquarters will mobilize our side. Anyway, After such a long time, things on Hera Island have already calmed down. Quote. So, we are finally going to see again. Lucar stroked his chin, which had grown a lot of stubble, thinking about the possibility that Nishizawa said. Otherwise, you won't forget how important you were in this department, right? Since we disrupted the arms smuggling trade route on Hera Island, you tell me how many pirates have encountered in the past few months. Nishizawa flipped directly over Byakugan, speechless to Lucar's slow response in this regard. It seems to be the case. In the past few months, there have been only 3 pirate groups in the waters of Hera Island, all of which are hundreds or tens of millions of small pirates. Lucar recalled every time Nishizawa gave him an action report. The pirate groups encountered these days were handled by Nishizawa and Norris. Nishizawa did not let Lucar go hunting down himself. He needed to train himself and the marine soldiers on the warship. For these slightly weaker pirates, Norris Rear Admiral is enough. These pirate groups are not even a battle experience for Lucar, and there is no need to take action in person. It is better to let him train on the deserted island with peace of mind. According to my estimation of the recent situation of the headquarters, we will be notified soon. I don't know why in the near future. The number of pirates is increasing. The headquarters needs some combat power to support. Nishizawa is not only managing warships and training his own swordsmanship. He is also responsible for the collection of intelligence and accurate understanding of the situation at the headquarters. He didn't want major things to happen inside Marine, and they still didn't know anything about it. Thanks for your hard work, Nishizawa. What you said, our side can't help much now. Norris Rear Admiral can handle it. It's been quiet for so long, it's time to go out to the sea to do something. Lucar squeezed his fist and couldn't help but feel a little excited. After practicing for so long, his strength has improved significantly. If he encounters the pirate army again, he will never fight as thrilling as before. It's time to get out of the mountain. I don't know if the opponents this time can put pressure on him again. Not only Lucar is improving, but Nishizawa and Bullet are also improving a lot. After all, everyone is a young genius and is making the most progress. Like Nishizawa, he can already be called a swordsman, the only thing missing is a famous sword. The progress of Bullet can be described as horror. Not only did he learn Marine 6 styles, but it also awakened Conqueror's Haki. Especially the awakening of Conqueror's Haki, this is the most surprising thing Lucar Genzies feels. This Haki hasn't even been awakened by Lucar, and he hasn't even awakened at all. This Conqueror's Haki is rumored to be a kind of king aptitude. People with Conqueror's Haki can intimidate, deter, and stun the enemy without taking a shot and relying on their own spirit, and can also stun opponents who are much weaker than themselves. According to the content taught in the training camp Zephyr, it is described that, unlike armament Haki and observation Haki, Conqueror's Haki is born with it, and it cannot be acquired through exercise, nor can it be inherited, only through its own fate. To decide whether you own it. And even if Conquerors can be controlled freely, it cannot be strengthened by exercise. It can only be strengthened by the user's own growth. And Bullet's Conquerors is a little different from others. He can use the ability of the merging fruit to merge the ghost energy with Conqueror's Haki, which makes his Conquerors more oppressive. Lucar personally felt that there was a sense of oppression from the devil from hell, second only to the pressure of Roger Conquerors. Of course, Lucar is no longer the time of the year, and now Bullet's Conquerors can bring pressure to him, but can't interfere with his actions. Chapter 69 Headquarters Notice, Seeking Collection, Recommendation Ticket. Advertisement. Just half a month after Lucar and their meeting, Naval Headquarters called. Blue. Mosimo C. Is it Lucar's side? This is Sengoku. Sengoku Admiral, this is Nishizawa, and Lucar is practicing against Bullet. On the warship, Nishizawa picked up the phone worm from the headquarters. Yes, it is inconvenient for Lucar to bring the phone bug with him during training. Otherwise, he didn't notice that the poor phone bug would be affected, so he gave the phone bug to Nishizawa for safekeeping. It's okay, Nishizawa is the same on your side. This time I called to inform you to return to the headquarters. There is no need to stay on the Kola Island anymore. Norris Rear Admiral is enough. Back to headquarters, Nishizawa thought that he would directly notify them to issue the task, but he didn't expect that he would still need to go back to the headquarters this time. Well, come back. It's been almost a year since you all left the headquarters. Just come back. The tasks from the headquarters will be awarded to you personally. Yes, Sengoku Admiral, I will arrange the itinerary for the return flight right away. Nishizawa replied simply. He originally planned to ask about the results of the previous Hera Island incident, but Sengoku didn't mention it, and no other things happened afterwards, so he cancelled his plan to follow up. Okay, nothing else, we will talk about it when you come back. Yes. Hanging up the phone worm, Sengoku took another phone worm from his desk and called. Mosimo C. Lucar, Bullet, you guys will pause for a while, the headquarters is here to inform. After Nishizawa finished the call, he immediately used Moonwalk to fly out of the warship and came to the deserted island to notify the two of Lucar. Yes, since the annual meeting, Nishizawa felt that there might be a notice from the headquarters in the near future, so he kept the warship docked here, did not drive back to Kola Island, only went to replenish it when the supplies were insufficient. Lucar had been turning on observation Haki when he was fighting, and he sensed that Nishizawa was approaching here, and a stone wall was directly erected between him and Bullet to separate the battle scene. Stop, Bullet. Seeing that Bullet broke the stone wall directly, he wanted to continue fighting, but he didn't intend to stop. This kid, I don't know who I learned from, so he'll be up as soon as he fights. Lucar shook his head helplessly. The earth is bound. A huge black and red hand rose from in front of Lucar, and firmly grasped the bullet who had rushed in, grasped his waist, and firmly controlled it. Ah! Ghost Tempest Kick. Bullet's feet turned dark blue, and a Tempest Kick chopping wave was emitted from the toes. It's a pity that not only Bullet used armament hockey, but the big hand that Lucar summoned was also armed with an armed color, and it abruptly resisted Bullet's attack. Hey, this kid has to be awake. Taking advantage of the time when Bullet was controlled, Lucar's right hand was bent backwards to accumulate force, and the entire ground began to crack. Rock Fist Giant Spear. Lucar aimed this charged straight fist at Bullet and swiped it out with all his strength. Bullet, who had just escaped from the big hand, had no time to evade, and hit directly and literally. I saw a figure passing through the air and launched like a missile. The stone pillar in the middle was like tofu, all shattered by this missile. It didn't hit the ground until it lost power. Advertisement. Hiss. Nishizawa took a breath of air when he saw this scene. I just came to inform you that it is time to end the battle and set off to return to naval headquarters. Why do you directly have to decide the outcome of life and death? Not so much. Nishizawa was a little bit speechless, and for a moment he forgot what he was going to do. Haha, Nishizawa, what happened? Lucar smiled and walked towards Nishizawa. Nishizawa did not speak, and reached out his hand and nodded in the direction where Bullet flew. You said Bullet, he was over there, I just hit him over, isn't there something on your side? This kid will continue to fight, I can only smash him into the air. He didn't feel Nishizawa's emotions, and continued to reply lightly, as if he had just shot a bug away. Nishizawa heard Lucar's answer, and he didn't know where to start with this kind of response. Shaking his head, regardless of what is happening now, he conveyed the message that was originally intended to be conveyed. I'm here to tell you, Sengoku Admiral informed us that we are back to headquarters. Oh, so soon, Nishizawa, your estimate is accurate, and I have come to inform you, so let's go. After Lucar finished speaking, he walked directly in the direction of the warship. After leaving Nishizawa before reacting, he was shocked and found that Lucar had already started to leave, so he hurried to catch up. What about Bullet, do you care about him? Finally, Nishizawa asked his doubts. Bullet, he didn't come here by himself when he waited. Now, look over there. Hearing Nishizawa's question, Lucar turned his head and glanced back. Captain, didn't you say that you only use physical skills to fight? How did you start using the fruit ability? Sure enough, I saw the figure of Bullet flying over with moonwalk from the back, and saw that his black military uniform was badly damaged, but Carrie didn't have much injuries on his body, only a trace of bloodline was wiped away at the corner of his mouth. Oh, I told you everything, pause for a while, your behavior is totally unacceptable when you fight. You can't lose your calm during the fight, and you don't know who you learned from. Lucar said in a half reprimand and half teaching tone, not paying attention to whom he was learning from. Bullet stared straight at him. Nishizawa also glanced at Lucar with a strange gaze, and then looked at Bullet. It could be seen that although the attack just now had some injuries, it was only a minor injury and did not affect the follow-up actions. Said softly, with envy in his eyes. All those who practice physical skills are monsters. For him, swordsmanship is more about enhancing offensive power. A strong swordsman can be fearless of any defense, but in terms of physical quality, few can compare with those who practice physical skills. Nishizawa, did you just say something? Lucar seemed to have just heard Nishizawa talking, but didn't hear clearly, so he asked. Nothing. Since Bullet is okay, then go back. Nishizawa shook his head, not wanting to say anything to these two monsters, no matter how envious it is. He does not have such a strong innate physical fitness, it is destined that he is difficult to go far in the road of strong physical skills, swordsmanship is really true. His pursuit. On the way back to the warship, Bullet has been by Lucar's side nagging about his use of abilities. Oh, you don't need fruit ability, just use physical skills, I don't know how long it takes to fight, this kid has improved too much. Of course, these words were only Lucar's thoughts, and he didn't say it. He had never seen Bullet's talent in physical skills stronger. In less than a year, Bullet's armed color has improved to the point where he can actually fight, and he can compete with himself after fusing the ghostly energy. He is not as fast as he can cultivate in armed color. From the lighthearted beating at the beginning, to the moment it is difficult to tell the victory or defeat by only using physical skills, but using the fruit ability, that is another picture. Chapter 70 Dark Wolf, Seeking Collection, Recommendation Ticket. Advertisement. New World, on a small island near the Red Line. A tall man with a height of 3 meters came to this small island, where fish and dragons are mixed, pirates, and underground forces are all mixed on this small island. This small island is not very far from the exit of the Fishmen Island. Many newly arrived pirates discovered this well-located island, and over time, it slowly evolved into a pirate gathering island. At this moment, the big tall man walked forward step by step holding on to the wall. There were a lot of burnt marks on his body, and he was breathing heavily from time to time. Damn, I finally escaped. I'm so G regretful. I shouldn't be greedy to steal some heavenly gold. Lousy is really blinded by lard. The man walked, thinking about what he regretted doing. This big tall man is a bounty hunter. His original name is Naham Tracy, but he has been in the underground forces all the year round, and others have given him the nickname of Dark Wolf. Since then, few people know his real name. Recently, the franchise countries all over the world have begun to deliver heavenly gold to the world government, and Dark Wolf has been eyeing a transport ship on the Grand Line, intending to give another wave of fat. He planned to retire after grabbing the heavenly gold and no longer appear on this sea. He believed that no one would be able to find him on this sea. But he never expected that the naval headquarters Vice Admiral and CP-0 agents were guarding this ship. He lost to the attack of the two powerful men and was finally forced to escape into the sea helplessly. The masters of Marine and CP are both demon fruit power, there is no way to chase, only let him escape successfully with his outstanding water ability. Since then, the world government has directly given him a bounty of up to 800 million yuan, and the world is wanted. He didn't care much about this bounty. His own strength was not bad, but he just happened to meet someone who exceeded his strength. Opponent. Otherwise, the strength of the transport ship is slightly weaker, and it is really possible that he will be successfully robbed. In the following time, Dark Wolf was pursued by various Marine and world government agents, especially those of world government. I don't know what power he can always find his position. Later, in the waters near the island of Sabayati, he encountered a young Marine who was about the same height as him. He realized that he could not beat this Marine. Now his injuries were caused by this Marine. In the end, he used the same method to escape into the sea, smuggled the Fishmen Island through underground forces, and successfully came to New World. Dark Wolf walked into a bar run by a pirate on this small island and came directly to the bar. Hurry up, bring Lousy a bottle of wine. He slapped the table hard and shouted loudly. There were also some other pirates in the bar. Although he saw that this big tall man was injured, but his whole body exuded an aura that was not easy to provoke, he could only glared at the other party and did not dare to provoke him. HMPH, just you trash, dare to stare at Lousy. Dark Wolf certainly sensed the gaze around him, but he obviously didn't care. For these pirates who stayed on this small island and did not continue to go deep into the New World, he looked down on these guys at all, and even the prey he picked was better than these people on weekdays. The surrounding pirates were shocked by the aura of the Dark Wolf, and did not dare to refute, but they did not retreat. The injured guy in front of them was like a wounded lone wolf. They only had a chance when the other party was exhausted. Can act. Yep. Suddenly, there was a loud noise outside the bar, interrupting the Dark Wolf's leisurely drinking atmosphere. He was about to get up, planning to go out and check the situation to see which guy with no eyesight dared to disturb him. Advertisement. He has been active in the underground forces for so many years, and he has also hunted down many powerful prey. He is still very confident of his own strength. I just don't know why, the ones I encountered recently were all he couldn't beat, and he even wondered if he was cursed. Snapped. The door of the bar was smashed open, and a group of neatly dressed white masked men and a tall Marine walked in. Leading this group of people are a man who was less than 1.5 meters tall and a Marine who was more than 3 meters tall. Marine. How could Marine appear here? The other pirates in the bar couldn't help exclaiming when they saw this scene. Then the men in white suits and masks who stood behind threw the men dressed as pirates directly on the ground without any movement. They appeared to be dead. These were the pirates guarding the bar outside. Ah, Dark Wolf, offering a bounty of 800 million Baileys, that's right, this man. The short man took out a wanted warrant, looked up and down at the Dark Wolf, and confirmed that the guy in front of him was their target. Akainu Commodore, I will trouble you to deal with it next. After this task is completed, I will help you report it to 5 elders. The short man originally gave orders to the face looking at Marine next to him, but he found that he turned his head and saw only a pair of long legs, not even the waist, so he cancelled when he thought he was going to raise his head to speak. This plan. Well, I will take off the head of this evil B*********** D who dares to provoke the world government. The big tall Marine standing next to him was Sakazuki. He met Dark Wolf while on the Grand Line. After a battle, he successfully defeated the opponent, but only allowed him to escape. This hunting incident was personally led by this short man, Ian, and the Dark Wolf's actions made the world government angry and almost robbed them of their heavenly gold. This was the face of the world government. Sending Ian directly must kill this bad bounty hunter. At any cost, Ian learned that Sakazuki had defeated the opponent and directly used his power to recruit the Marine. Ian didn't want to participate in the hunt. He didn't have too much strength. It was too risky to go to the front line to deal with this powerful bounty hunter. But there is no way, he must complete the task of the world government, otherwise his status in front of 5 elders will be affected, and finally he has no choice but to recruit Sakazuki, the young Marine. At present, regardless of whether it is Marine or CP department, most of the strong players such as Vice Admiral are either stationed in important places or arranged to escort the Sky Gold. He has no choice but to find Sakazuki's Marine who has a victory record. Hearing Sakazuki's reply, Ian nodded in satisfaction, then turned around and walked out of the bar with the remaining CP agent. Yes, Ian did not ask these CP agents to help Sakazuki, these agents came to protect him. For him, his own safety is the most important thing. Without these agents, he would not dare to leave the territory controlled by the world government. Only Sakazuki and Dark Wolf were left in the bar. The other pirates saw this scene and fled directly from the side door of the bar. Neither CP nor Sakazuki paid any attention to these pirates who fled. In their eyes, these pirates are just rubbish that can be cleaned at any time, and only the Dark Wolf in front of them is their highest priority target. Are you ready? This is your cemetery. Sakazuki put his arms around his chest, did not look at the murderous bounty hunter in front of him, his eyes were rather plain, as if he saw a dead person. Chapter 71 Confrontation, Seeking Collection, Recommendation Ticket. Advertisement. When Lousy crossed this sea, you were still swimming in the womb. The Dark Wolf knew that he had no retreat. On the land of this small island, there was no sea water to make him escape again, and he could only meet the final battle. Damn it, how could Marine catch up so fast? Is my whereabouts betrayed? The group of hyenas really couldn't believe it. Looking fiercely at the Marine in front of him, with his hands on him, he drew 2 scimitars from his waist. These are the weapons of his life. At this time, only this old companion can bring him a sense of security. Seeing the Dark Wolf's movements, Sakazuki lifted his head slightly and stared at the enemy who was about the same height in front of him. Now that you are ready, let's play the dance music of death. The temperature of the bar rose instantly, and Sakazuki's arms turned into crimson lava, surging constantly, and thick black smoke rose on both sides. Haha, it depends on whether it is you today or Lousy will die here. Since there was no retreat, Dark Wolf put aside all other thoughts and concentrated on this battle, completely letting go. Dual sword stream latent wolf. The Dark Wolf took the lead and kicked it hard, leaping directly towards Sakazuki, his 2 hands quickly swung out. Ah! The shadow of the scimitar formed 2 dark wolves, roaring angrily, and rushing forward. Wolves. Then use this. Canine tooth red lotus. Facing the pounce of 2 black wolves, Sakazuki waved his right hand and simply responded. A huge scarlet magma dog jumped out of his right arm and rushed towards the 2 evil wolves made up of sword-ons. The 3 dog-like beasts bitten together fiercely. The tables and chairs inside the bar were all shattered by the fierce fighting. The walls and the ground around the bar showed knife marks and burn marks. Boom. Obviously, this bar couldn't withstand the fierce fighting inside. When the red giant dog threw the other 2 evil wolves on the wall, the entire bar collapsed. With the collapse of the bar, this warm-up battle between the bounty hunter and Marine is completely over, and the next step is the real thing. Zuohei Great Eruption. Dual Blade Flow Wolf Breakthrough. Just when the roof of the bar collapsed and the dust covered the sight of the 2 for a moment, the 2 seemed to receive the signal, and they made a tacit understanding at the same time. Sakazuki swung out a huge arm made of magma, mixed with armament hockey, and directly melted all the debris blocking the front, rushing towards the Dark Wolf without any obstruction. Of course, Dark Wolf also started his counterattack here, bending his body downwards, holding 2 scimitars, leaping forward, and swinging the scimitars upwards. Armament hockey was mixed with 2 huge blade lights, forming a huge ferocious wolf head, which blocked the magma fist that rushed in, and the strength of the 2 competed against each other here. Dark Wolf knew that in his current state, he couldn't compete with this Logia Devil Fruit ability here, so that sooner or later he would not be able to consume the Marine in front of him. Knowing that time is not good for him and making a quick decision, he directly chose to fight to the death. He wants to quickly kill this Marine with his sword hero's powerful offensive ability, and he absolutely can't drag on the deadlock. The Dark Wolf began to increase its strength, tearing the giant magma fist in front of him with the decapitated wolf head, leaving him in attack space, and a short blank path appeared along the way. A stepped to Sakazuki's side, preparing to solve the battle with close combat, which is his strongest attack method as a swordsman. Want to fight melee? Sakazuki's eyes flashed, and he quickly understood the intention of this bounty hunter. He had to know that he was also a swordsman before entering the Marine training camp of the headquarters. Of course, he knew how to maximize the combat effectiveness of the swordsman. Facing the Dark Wolf's slashing attack, Sakazuki didn't panic at all. One stooped to avoid the Dark Wolf's slash, and before the Dark Wolf slashed back to slash the second attack, Sakazuki directly hit the ground with a punch. Advertisement. Volcano. At the place where Sakazuki and Dark Wolf were standing, the originally normal ground was directly transformed into magma. This ground seemed to have turned into an active volcano and erupted directly. Numerous magma impacts were ejected directly from this piece of ground. In this case, Dark Wolf had no choice but to go out of this area first, otherwise he would be melted by the magma before he killed Sakazuki. However, it's easy to get close, and it's not that easy to quit. Sakazuki doesn't just use Devil Fruit ability. Directly transforming the position where he was standing into his own magma territory, the battle situation that might be threatening in close combat was suddenly reversed, and the Dark Wolf was in a dilemma instead. Don't even think about leaving, Dark Wolf, just die here. Zuohei Great Eruption. Another huge magma fist hit the Dark Wolf, who was about to exit this magma territory, directly back. Damn. Get out of me. The Dark Wolf not only had to face the close Sakazuki directly, but was also burned by the magma attack in this area. Soon, the scars on the Dark Wolf's body are getting more and more. No matter what method he uses, he can't escape from this area. The new wounds also bring the recurrence of the old wounds. He can obviously feel that his state is declining. He glanced at the young Marine who was stubbornly blocking him. Although he had cut a lot of marks on his body, he didn't make a hit. There is not much interference with the strong Marine in front of him, and it does not affect the next battle. Damn Marine, damn Logia, why is it so difficult to fight than the Vice Admiral on the transport ship I robbed at the time? Single quote. Wiping the bloodline from the corner of his mouth with the back of his hand, Dark Wolf felt a little desperate. He knew that his time was running out, and then he decided to make a final resistance. Firmly squeeze the scimitars in his hands, stand with his legs in a pony stride, his body tensed, and he breathed out softly. If you want to go up, it depends on the blow for life or death. Come on, Marine, let you see the power of Dark Wolf, Naham Tracy. Do you want to fight to the death? Sakazuki could see the man's decision in front of him. He didn't expect this bounty hunter to have this kind of courage at the moment of life and death. Maybe it is this kind of courage that makes this bounty hunter have the courage to rob the world government's heavenly gold. It's a pity that he must kill all evil. No matter who the opponent is, as long as it is an evil person, it is impossible for Sakazuki, who believes in absolute justice, to keep his hands. Since the other party is fighting for his life, then he must not lose to this man. Marine Sakazuki will take off the head of your evil person. Haha, then come on. Dual blades flow, profound meaning, wolves chasing the soul. Dark Hound. Boom. Not only the small bar, but all the buildings around the bar were swallowed up by the aftermath of the battle. Damn, just a bounty hunter has to fight for so long. Look at what, don't you hurry up to help me up. On a hill a little far away from the bar, Ian was directly shocked by the aftermath of the battle and fell to the ground, cursing and letting the CP agent beside him help him. As for why he ran so far and waited, as a senior official of the world government, of course he knew the information about Logia's fruit ability, and he knew that especially lava fruit's ability to fear destructive power and combat range was somewhat amazing. Of course, Ian, who regretted his life, had to choose to hide away. If he hadn't waited for the result report from Sakazuki's side, he was ready to hide on the warship and wait. Chapter 72 Ian's Wing, Seeking Collection, Recommendation Ticket. Advertisement. Sakazuki didn't make Ian wait long, and after the last wave of violent collisions, the battle was over. Ha, 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 it's a good death to die on a hero like you, Marine. The Dark Wolf couldn't stop the bleeding of blood, and it was difficult to finish his last words, and then he lowered his head directly. His body did not fall down. On Dark Wolf's chest, a thick arm pierced his chest, without a trace of blood flowing out, it was all burned and dried. The owner of this arm was Marine Sakazuki, who was fighting against the Dark Wolf, and slowly stretched his arm back from the Dark Wolf's chest. Sakazuki looked at the corpse in front of him, kept silent, did not say a word. This battle was only part of his Marine career. He believed that in the future, this situation will not be rare. A quarter of an hour later, Ian was smoking a cigar at the top of the hill, waiting for the outcome of the battle somewhat boredly. A masked agent walked up to Ian and said softly, "Senior Ian, the battle on Akainu Commodore's side is over, and he has rushed to our side." "It's over. What's that Dark Wolf called? Is it dead?" Hearing the news of the end of the battle, Ian couldn't wait to know the result. For him, everything is not as important as the mission of the world government. We can't sense the specific situation here, but Akainu Commodore should have won the battle. This time the opponent is not at sea and there is no way to escape. What's the use of what you said so much? Lousy just wants to pay attention to whether this B*********** D is dead or not. Without getting the answer he wanted, Ian was about to get angry with his subordinates. "Senior Ian, look, Akainu Commodore is here." Another CP agent pointed directly to the front, interrupted Ian's words, and quickly turned to look over. "I saw Sakazuki holding a human head and flying towards them from the air on moonwalk. The red shirt on his body was a little torn, and he was chopped out with knife marks, faintly bleeding out. But looking at Sakazuki's expressionless gangster-like face, it seemed that the scars on his body were not cut on him at all." Ian didn't pay attention to Sakazuki's state, and stared at the head he was carrying. When Sakazuki came to them, Ian finally saw the face of this head. It was the wanted criminal who was offering a bounty of 800 million by the world government. Wolf. Haha, our task has finally been completed. It's a beautiful job, Akainu Commodore. Ian confirmed that his mission was completed, and the anger just now disappeared, and he walked forward with a smile on his face and took a picture of Sakazuki's thigh. He wanted to take a picture of Sakazuki's shoulder, but unfortunately he was not tall enough and could only take pictures of his thighs. "Well, justice will eliminate all evil." Sakazuki replied blankly. He didn't care about this mission. As long as he could eliminate the evil ones, he would not refuse the difficult mission. Haha, don't always hold your face, Akainu Commodore, this cooperation is still very pleasant. I will report your credit to 5 elders. Ian nodded in satisfaction, stretched out his hand and waved forward, signaling the CP agent to pack the Dark Wolf's head and take it back for a report. After completing the mission, they don't need to stay here anymore, ready to return directly. Ian walked ahead, stopped suddenly, and turned to look at Sakazuki beside him. Advertisement. Akainu Commodore, it is estimated that you can be directly promoted to the first level in this mission. Are you interested in cooperating with our CP department? This will be of great benefit to your future promotion. I will help you with some conveniences. This is what Ian suddenly thought of. This time the mission succeeded in achieving the mission goal. He diverted his attention from the mission and began to think about the follow-up content. He is still very satisfied with Sakazuki. He does not exclude cooperation with them, and he is strong enough, and his talent is amazing. Maybe he can really get the position of Marine Admiral in the headquarters. This made Ian pay attention to the Marine, thinking about Sakazuki's background and strength information. I think that in the future, if I encounter a task of this level again, maybe with the help of this powerful young Marine, it will greatly improve the efficiency of task completion, and the status and background of the two sides can complement each other. I think, the more appropriate it is. Directly open the mouth to draw the road. Sakazuki didn't reply directly when Ian was wooing him, but began to think about the possibility of cooperation. Although he doesn't have a good impression of CP officials of the world government, he knows that these CP agents are also necessary, and sometimes they can obtain information from them. He has no resistance like Lucar's. It's okay. Akainu Commodore, you can go back and think about it slowly. It's not anxious for this kind of thing. Seeing Sakazuki nodded, Ian smiled with satisfaction, knowing that the possibility of cooperation has increased. Regardless of his lack of combat effectiveness, and his length is not very good, but to be able to climb to the position of a senior official in the world government, the most important thing for him is his outstanding ability to observe words and colors. Akainu Commodore is really reliable. If only Marines are like you, it would be great. Don't be like that guy named Lucar. Don't touch anything. You will die in this sea sooner or later. With the Marine comparison of Sakazuki, Ian couldn't help thinking that Marine Lucar, who was also a tough guy, took a bite of a short winter melon, so he couldn't breathe that way. The last plan to borrow the hand of the Black King was unsuccessful, making his mood suddenly worse, and he cursed Lucar with broken thoughts, but he did not have enough strength to retaliate again. Even the last complaint between Agent Crow and the Kingdom of Arad failed to get rid of this guy. Ian thought that he could use the means behind the scenes to persecute Lucar, but he did not expect that Marshal Kong of the Marine headquarters personally went to Five Elders and directly suppressed the matter. As Marines Marshal, Five Elders must give this face, after all, it's not a big deal. Marshal Marine's personal explanation is enough to solve this matter. Listening to Ian cursing Lucar, Sakazuki frowned and glanced down at Ian, his eyes flashing with contempt. Although Sakazuki has conflicts with Lucar on the concept of justice, in his mind, Lucar is definitely a very prominent Marine. He has admired this man from the training camp together. However, considering some circumstances, Sakazuki did not refute Ian's words. He knew something about the grievances between the two men. Otherwise, he believed that Lucar could solve it by himself. 15 minutes later, Sakazuki and his party arrived at this pier. At this time, the island was quiet. Hundreds of CP agents walked out of the island and gathered at the pier, waiting for the return of Sakazuki and others. After everyone arrived, Sakazuki was ready to board his warship and separate from CP agents like Ian. He was recruited by a temporary world government mission. After the mission, he returned to his ship. There is no need to follow these agents. Stay together. At the time of parting, Ian and Sakazuki greeted each other. Akainu Commodore, this mission was completed smoothly. You can report back to Naval Headquarters here. Consider the cooperation between us. With my help, you will be able to board the position of Admiral sooner or later. Yep, Sakazuki responded simply, without saying much, watching these agents start to go away, and said something in a voice that he could only hear. Admiral, oh, it's not enough. Chapter 73 Institution Island, Seeking Collection, Recommendation Ticket. Advertisement. Just when Sakazuki was preparing to set sail and return to the headquarters. South Blue, a remote island, is full of vegetation, seemingly unpopulated. And in the underground of this island, there is actually a huge steel base. In the base, many staff wearing white laboratory suits are walking around busy. At this time, one of the researchers wearing black glasses, with a flustered expression, hurried past the other staff and directly entered a laboratory at the core of the base. Oh, doctor, someone broke into the agency island. The researcher with glasses yelled into the laboratory. Oh, do you know who it is? The man who responded, wearing a pair of square-frame glasses, looked like he was in his early 20s, and asked calmly. Looking at the man's face, he could feel any emotional changes in him. What we have observed here is that it seems to be the ship of the world government. Doctor, what should we do? Oh, you arranged to collect all the experimental data. Hearing this news, the man in the laboratory replied calmly, as if the news he heard was that an ant had invaded the base without any wavering. Doctor, why do you collect information? What about the people who invaded the island? It's okay, don't worry about them. At this time. Boom. There was an explosion sound, and it seemed that someone outside bombed their underground base with powerful firepower, and the whole base shook slightly. Yo, find you, Dr. Vegapunk. Just after the explosion sounded, just after the end, the door of the laboratory was opened, and a tall man over 3 meters tall, wearing a yellow striped shirt and wearing a marine justice coat, stood at the door. The big tall man lifted the small yellow round sunglasses on his face with his fingers, and his eyes were firmly locked on the expressionless man just now. Come on. The man named Vegapunk said softly. Neither the explosion nor the sudden appearance of the big marine made him feel emotionally fluctuating. It seems that this man has foreseen what is happening now. Doctor, leave, I'll stop him. The other researcher who came to inform him was not as calm as Vegapunk, and he opened his hands excitedly to stop the two of them, shouting loudly for Vegapunk to escape first. Oh, do you want to stop me? It's terrible. The marine was scared at least, but there was no fear on his face. He stretched out a finger and pointed it at the researcher who was in the middle. The fingertips began to flash with golden light. Is this a shining fruit? It is a rare Logia devil fruit. Dr. Vegapunk, who had been very calm before, showed interest for the first time, his eyes fixed on the marine's movements. Oh, you know the shining fruit, are you going to resist? Pelusolino kept his posture, his eyes fixed on his target, Dr. Vegapunk. Yes, this tall marine was exactly the Kizaru Pelusolino who had sailed in South Blue for a year. The goal of the CP agent he was staying with was to find the doctor in front of him. It was only recently that he found some information in South Blue. He found clues to the Institution Island from the purchase information of some advanced scientific research objects, and finally found this by following these clues. An island. Advertisement. As a result, Pelusolino's military rank is still the rank of colonel, but this time after the world government's most senior mission is completed, it may not be at this rank. Aren't you going to take me away? Then go. Vegapunk ignored Pelusilino's threats. He hadn't planned to make a rebellious action. He walked forward and patted the researcher who was in front of him. PhD. The researcher turned his head to look at the doctor behind him, with a question on his face. He didn't understand what the doctor meant. Shouldn't he be preparing to retreat now? Let's go. Arrange for other personnel. Collect all the information. We have to work in another place. The researcher finally understood Dr. Vegapunk's thoughts. He was planning to surrender directly and was not prepared to resist. Looking at Vegapunk's calm eyes, he confirmed that this order was serious. Since the leader of the base had arranged this way, he could only nod helplessly. Had to follow the doctor's arrangement, glanced at Marine who was standing at the door, and walked straight over. Oh, don't you plan to resist, it's really easy to pinch. Withdrawing the laser that his fingertips were ready to fire at any time, Pelusilino stepped aside and let the researcher go out, in which his eyes didn't leave Vegapunk for a second. Although the opponent made this performance of giving up resistance, he learned from the search mission that the ordinary-looking man in front of him possessed amazing wisdom. Even the world government was tempted to directly issue the highest-level mission instructions, and the doctor must be brought back to the world government alive at all costs. For a person of this level, Pelusilino was not careless, and the actual actions were not as casual as he said. He didn't know whether the doctor had an amazing follow-up method. The researcher passed Porcelino's side, walked out of the laboratory, and cast a worried look at the back. As one of the important researchers at the base, he knows how amazing the research content here is, and he knows that once the world government knows these content, he will never let them go. Now, following the doctor's order, these people must also be taken away by the world government along with the doctor. Worrying about the future of their group, he thought that maybe the final result might be killed by the world government. He sighed. Now he thinks too much and it is useless. He can only do it according to the doctor's order, praying that their fellow researchers will have a better life in the future. Porcelino didn't care about the researcher's departure. For him, the doctor in front of him was the most important. Fortunately, Vegapunk had no intention of resisting. Instead, in front of Pelusilino, he found a chair in the laboratory and sat down, took a document from the table and looked through it. The scene suddenly became harmonious, and Pelusilino felt a little surprised. This action was a bit smoother than he had imagined. He thought there was still a fierce battle. It's a smooth pinch. Mr. Marine, I don't know if I will have the opportunity to cooperate with you in the future. I am very interested in your shining fruit ability. Vegapunk looked at the information in his hand and suddenly made a request to Pelusilino. Do you want to study my abilities? Scientists are really terrible. Porcelino was a little bit unable to understand the doctor's thoughts. He took the glasses he was wearing with his hand and thought for a while but didn't find the problem in the words. It seems that the doctor really just made a simple request for cooperation. At this time, there was a loud noise from the base, and it seemed that someone had entered the base. Colonel Kizaru, have you found Vegapunk here? Outside the experiment room, there was a plain questioning sound. Chapter 74 Mission complete, seeking collection, recommendation ticket. Advertisement. A CP agent wearing a fox mask came over and looked through Pelusilino to Vegapunk, who was looking at the file in the laboratory. Is this Dr. Vegapunk? Agent Fox asked Pelusilino. Porcelino nodded and got a definite answer. The look in Agent Fox's eyes that had been flat and watery finally showed a wave. Walking quickly into the laboratory, Vegapunk heard someone come in again, put the file in his hand, and looked up. Drive Vegapunk, I am very happy to meet you. On behalf of the world government, I invite you to come with us to the Holy Land. The fox sent an invitation to Vegapunk, but he could tell from his eyes that he was not allowed to refuse. This fox agent is not only a member of the CP department, he is the most powerful and mysterious CP0 department in the CP department. CP0 is the highest secret cipher pool directly under the world government. It is the highest level of CP1 CP9 in the CP department. It is also an official directly under the celestial dragons of the world aristocracy. Its rank and status are very high in the world government. As an agent of the CP0 department, the fox is qualified to speak on behalf of the world government. Well, let's go. The experimental data and other researchers in this base ask the world government not to damage it. My follow-up research is necessary. Vegapunk replied calmly. It seemed that the doctor was even calmer than the most senior agent. As for why it is necessary to bring up the experimental data and researchers, on the one hand, Vegapunk knows that he will continue his scientific research after he has gone to the world government. If they are the original team, it will indeed bring him convenience, and he needs to save here. Team. On the other hand, Vegapunk is also protecting these researchers who have been following him for scientific research. If you don't remind them, they are likely to be killed by these world government agents. Doctor, please rest assured, I have already ordered this, and the doctor will not suffer any loss. Agent Fox replied that for him, as long as he can successfully take the doctor away, all his requirements can be met. Orders were issued on both sides, and there was no conflict between the Al-Qaeda researcher and the CP agent. Soon, the information on the base has been collected and sorted out, and researchers from all other bases are waiting at the gate of the core laboratory. Doctor, everything is ready, please come with us. Well, then let's go. Vegapunk got up and walked out to the laboratory, while on either side of him stood Agent Fox and Pelusilino. The two were to protect Vegapunk on the one hand, and guard Vegapunk on the other to prevent the other from escaping. Fortunately, two things did not happen and everything went smoothly. Under their escort, they successfully brought Vegapunk and all the base researchers onto the warship. Confirming the successful completion of this mission, Agent Fox's eyes flashed with a relaxed look, and his tone was not as cold as before, and he chatted with Pelusalino with great interest. Colonel Kizaru, as long as the doctor is successfully escorted to Mariajoy, our mission is truly completed, and then you can return to Naval Headquarters to report. Ah, it's almost over. I almost forgot what the Naval Headquarters looks like. Pelusalino pouted. Hee, don't worry, your military rank will definitely be promoted after this mission is over. The 2 Marines who were with you at the same time have already been promoted to Commodore. Advertisement. Pelusalino knew which 2 Marines he was talking about. As the oldest of the 3, he unknowingly was a little behind, so he could only shrug his shoulders helplessly. Lucar and Sakazuki really worked hard. I don't know if I can see them when I go back this time. When faced with such a time-consuming task, he had no choice. He couldn't push away the most advanced task on the world government side. He could only recognize this fact. But fortunately, just to complete this task, he knew that his military rank would definitely rise. With the start of the warship, they finally no longer need to wander in the South Blue waters. Watching the Organ Island that they had been searching for a year began to gradually shrink and gradually disappear on the sea. Perhaps it was the arrangement of fate. After a year, the 3 set off for Naval Headquarters at about the same time as a coincidence. While they are all advancing towards Naval Headquarters, this time is the establishment of the annual Marine Recruit Training Camp. Marine branches in various places are also escorting this year's outstanding recruit students to Naval Headquarters. Marineford, Naval Headquarters. In Marshal Marine's office, Marshal Sang was sitting behind the Marshal's desk in the center. In front of the desk, 2 impressive Marines were sitting on the sofa, Sengoku Admiral and Zephyr Admiral. At this time, the 3 of them were all looking at a document, which was the information of the new students reported by various branches this year. Since the first training camp, a large number of outstanding Marine generals have been successfully cultivated, especially the elite group of Lucar, who have been active in this sea. Not only has it brought a lot of deterrence to the pirates, but it has also stimulated many generals in the headquarters, and many generals in the headquarters have been stimulated by the courage of these young Marines. They felt that the pace of the times was welcoming the new Marine era step by step, and they couldn't help but work harder, not wanting to be abandoned by the new era. The establishment of the Marine training camp was even more successful than imagined by the headquarters. Zephyr Admiral, who was a bit inclined to retreat, declined in popularity after resigning from the position Admiral was responsible for. However, as the importance of Marine training camp became prominent, the retired Admiral suddenly regained new prestige, not even lower than the prestige of the original title, Do Not Kill Admiral. The 3 people in the Marshal's office now attach great importance to the information of the newcomer students. This time, before the students came to the headquarters, they were checking the student information reported by the branch. Hi, there is another Logia Demon Fruit Power this year. Marshal Sora saw the message of a young man with black curly hair in the file in his hand and couldn't help but exclaimed. The quality of this class of students is also very high, it is actually frozen fruit, it is really rare. Sengoku also saw the information of this student named Kuzan. He felt that the creation of a Marine recruit training camp could not be more correct. Otherwise, these talented newcomers Marine will have to settle for a long time in the branch before they have a chance to truly step into Naval Headquarters. Without professional teaching in Naval Headquarters, perhaps many geniuses waited the best period of progress in the branch before the training camp. At this time, Zephyr put down the documents in his hand. He was very satisfied with the students who were about to join the department this time. He already had a teaching plan in his mind for being a high-quality student this time. Marshal Sora, isn't Lucar going back to the headquarters recently? Yes, I asked Sengoku to tell him to go back to the headquarters, what's wrong? Marshal Kong asked a little strangely, wondering why Zephyr mentioned his first class of students while watching the new student information. That's good, please let Marshal Kong let Lucar stay in the headquarters for a while, I want him to come and help, to show the students this time the strength of their seniors. Zephyr brought up the thoughts in his mind. Chapter 75 Zephyr's Plan, Seeking Collection, Recommendation Ticket. Advertisement. Oh, Zephyr, what are you going to do here? Hearing Zephyr's proposal, Marshal Sora became interested, and even Sengoku on the side looked at him. I plan to arrange a discussion between me and Lucar at the recruit's opening ceremony. Zephyr smiled and talked about his plan. Yes, there are a lot of talents in this class, and the quality is still quite high. Among them is a teenager from the top Logia Devil Fruit. He plans to arrange a battle for these students to see the strength of their seniors to encourage their learning progress. Marshal Sora stroked his beard that looked like 3 inverted triangles, thinking about the possibility of Zephyr's proposal. At this moment, Sengoku seemed to think of something, and said to the 2 of them. Zephyr, will there be too much difference between you and Lucar in the discussion? On the contrary, it does not reflect Lucar's strength as a senior. Well, what you said is also a problem, so shall I keep some? Sengoku's words made Zephyr discover that without considering this issue, Lucar's strength is indeed strong enough among newcomers, and he can even be called a strong name in this sea, otherwise the world government will not easily give Marine title. But compared to Zephyr, who is standing on the top of the world, Lucar is still too tender, too far away from the strongest position. If you really want to learn from each other, Zephyr must press his own strength, otherwise there will be a one-sided situation, and Zephyr's top armament hockey will make Lucar very difficult to deal with. Facing a top powerhouse like Zephyr, time did not stand on Lucar's side. If you close the fight, I don't think the effect is very good. I have a suggestion. Isn't Sakazuki coming back too? Isn't the two of them right? You can also see their progress this year. Sengoku made his suggestion, but Zephyr did not directly agree. He was aware of the friction between Lucar and Sakazuki, especially the conflict between the two of their views on justice, and he was worried that if the two of them were to fight, they might get the upper hand and could not hold back the scene. When Zephyr was about to reject Sengoku's proposal, Marshal Sora interrupted Zephyr's opening. Well, I received the news from the world government that Pelusolino's task has been completed, and they are also on the way back. They should arrive at the headquarters in about the same time. Can we arrange for one of the three of them to learn from each other? Marshal Sora made a new suggestion, and both Zephyr and Sengoku were thinking about the effect of replacing them with the three of them. Is Pelusolino coming back too? I think it is very good for them to show as the most prominent three of the first class of students. Sengoku was the first to agree to Marshal Sora's suggestion. Zephyr thought about it for a while and also agreed. He considered that if Pelusolino also joined in, there would be a third party, which could ease the direct conflict between Lucar and Sakazuki. Okay, that's it, Zephyr. When you arrange an uninhabited island as a battlefield, I don't want the three Logia demon fruit powers to fight in the headquarters, it will blow up the headquarters. Now that the decision was made, Marshal Sora didn't plan to waste any more time, and he simply asked Zephyr to arrange the follow-up. Advertisement. Sengoku, let me know when it is time for them to fight, and I will go over and take a look. Yes, Marshal Kong picked up the student datasheet and looked through it after arranging the task. He wanted to sigh with emotion. In the past 2 years, there are really new monsters in the world. The newcomer Marine Kuzan I just saw is from South Blue, Lucar is from West Blue, Sakazuki and Pelusolino are from North Blue, and East Blue is not bad. Garp's son also heard that he is very strong. Thinking of Garp, Marshal Sora's good mood was suddenly broken, frowned, and raised his head to ask Sengoku who was about to leave. Sengoku, where did that B*********** D Garp go, still not planning to be promoted to Admiral? Hearing Marshal Sora's question, Sengoku's face was a little ugly, thinking of what Garp had done recently, with a pained expression on his face. Before we arranged for Marine to escort the heavenly gold, the B******** D Garp ran off when he heard the news. He ran to find the green pepper from the 8 treasure water army of the Land of Flowers. I don't know where I went to practice boxing for green pepper iron head skill. This B********, alas. Marshal Kong sighed after learning about Garp's movements. Every time when the world government began to collect heavenly gold, Garp would find a reason to run out and avoid the task of escorting heavenly gold. In fact, after so many years of contact, Marshal Empty knew what Garp thought in his heart for a long time, and he could understand Garp's behavior, otherwise he would not let Garp easily avoid the escort mission every time. What he bothers is not that Garp refuses the heavenly gold mission, but that this guy has been rejecting Admiral's position. In terms of strength, Garp has long been Marine's top combat power, but he didn't get promoted and chose to stay in the Vice Admiral position. As for Zephyr, there is no Admiral position in his body. Marine all know about it, except that he has left the rank of Admiral. As a result, Marine has only one Admiral named Sengoku. However, the world government above has been putting pressure on him to supplement the Admiral position and ensure that the protection of the celestial dragons of the world aristocracy will not be reduced. Yes, as long as you are promoted to the position of Marine Admiral, you must also protect the celestial dragons of the world's nobles. As long as celestial dragons are threatened, Marine must send the highest combat power of Admiral to protect them. There are only Marshal Sora and Sengoku Admiral on Marine. In case celestial dragons is threatened, only Sengoku and Admiral can pass, and as Marshal Marine, he cannot be dispatched casually. After all, if the Marine Marshal's position is lost, the reputation and prestige of the entire Marine will be hit. By the way, did Garp's son arrange to go to the Holy Land Mariajoy? Yes, I'm a little worried. I don't know if this young man can accept the cruelty of reality. Sengoku showed a worried look. At that time, the Holy Land asked to assign some outstanding young people to the Holy Land. He planned to train as a Marine with the spirit of guarding the world government. Finally, he chose Garp's son to arrange it. On the other hand, Lucar had a conflict with officials of the world government, which was obviously inappropriate. If Lucar was dispatched, it would probably break out on the spot. Sakazuki is also not suitable. That kind of hard-hearted character can't be willing to stay there honestly. This kind of aggressive Marine is the most suitable place on the sea to fight the pirates. It was originally arranged for Pelusolino to go there. The character of this Marine was the most suitable. Unfortunately, during that time, the world government released the most advanced mission and called Pelusolino away. At that time, Garp's son, an excellent student, did not arrange a task, and was finally recruited into the Holy Land by the world government. As the son of Garp, Long is also a point of special concern for the world government. Since it is difficult for the world government to completely control Garp, it has to start with his next generation. Chapter 76 Return to Headquarters, Seeking Collection, Recommendation Ticket. Advertisement. After a year, we are back to the headquarters again. Standing at the bow of the ship, Lucar slowly saw the iconic walled building of naval headquarters emerging from the sea level little by little. Lucar was sighed. After sailing on the Grand Line for more than half a month, Lucar's warship is finally about to arrive at naval headquarters. Yeah, I didn't expect that we had been out for a year, and time passed so fast. Nishizawa was also looking at the direction of the headquarters with complicated emotions. He thought that the mission of Kola Island was only a few months away. Who would have thought that so many things happened in the middle, which led to a whole year of being outside? You know that Lucar and the others don't need to stay in a certain fortress. It is understandable if they don't return to the headquarters all the year round. They only supported this mission in the past. It is estimated that even Sengoku Admiral can't think that things can develop to the present situation. As this naval headquarters, it's so big. I have never seen the bullet of naval headquarters before, and when I saw the solemn headquarters, I couldn't help but let out a surprise. He grew up on Hera Island since he was a child. The two kingdoms on the island have been fighting for years, and there is no other energy to develop the country. As a result, the architectural style of the whole kingdom is more simple, and everything is practical, and people can live there. Compared with marine architecture, which is already the top power organization in this world, it can really be regarded as the difference between heaven and earth. Haha, it would be nice to come here a few more times. In fact, it is good to see. Marine can execute justice on this sea not by a few magnificent buildings, but by marine who have a firm heart of justice. The righteous heart of generations of ancestors has made the buildings here more majestic. I don't know if you can bring your justice to this building in the future. Lucar saw the look of Bullet, and took this opportunity to talk about his views, hoping that this young marine can also have the justice of the marine soldier. It's as if you weren't shocked when you saw this part. Hearing Lucar's words, Nishizawa glanced at him with a strange look, and cast aside his lips, seeing that he did not speak out what was in his heart when he was teaching Bullet a righteous heart. As students from the same group of West Blue Branch at the time, Nishizawa certainly knew the situation when they first met naval headquarters. Yes, Captain, sooner or later I will let everyone remember my Bullet's view of justice. In Bullet, which was shocked by the headquarters, Lucar's words were irritated and excitedly shouted out his goal. He didn't notice the smile on Lucar's mouth. Well, Ruzi can be taught. After training with Bullet for more than half a year, he is very optimistic about this young genius. He never needs the opponent in terms of strength. He has never slackened in terms of strength. Only strength can bring him a sense of security. Without his supervision, Bullet will complete the training goals beyond that. Compared with Lucar, he will not give in too much. The only worry is Bullet's psychological problems, especially those years of experience on Hera Island, including the final betrayal of General Grey. Fortunately, after Lucar passed General Grey's last gift to Bullet, the kid hid in the corner and wept silently. Since then, I have a lot more trust in Lucar's side, and I am willing to accept Lucar's teaching a little bit. Originally, after the battlefield, the body exuded more and more aggressive character. With the company of Lucar these days, it converged a lot. It seemed that the sharp blade was slowly retracting into the scabbard. The warship sailed slowly, and Nishizawa arranged for the flag bearers on the warship to pass messages to the soldiers at the guards on both sides of Moon Bay, and sailed safely into the main port. Ha! It's finally here. Stepping on the ground of naval headquarters, Lucar feels comfortable all over. No way, this is the feeling brought by his devil fruit ability. Advertisement. Although his combat effectiveness on the ship is not weak, he is truly complete and strong only if he stands on land. Nishizawa, make arrangements here, then take Bullet to my house and wait for me. I will first go to Sengoku Admiral to report. When I come back in the evening, I will go to Teacher Zephyr together. I haven't had a drink with Teacher Zephyr for a long time. Lucar briefly arranged. Now that he has returned to the headquarters, as the captain of the warship, he must first report to Sengoku. After all, his direct leader is Sengoku Admiral. Okay, then you go, meet in your little building that night. Nishizawa waved his hand casually and signaled that Lucar could leave. He had always been responsible for the arrangements of the soldiers and ships on these warships. Good. The two did not need to hand over anything. Lucar went straight to the classical walled building in the headquarters. Dong dong. Come in. Sengoku hadn't spoken yet. The people outside his admiral office didn't wait for the reply from the people inside. They opened the door and walked in. Putting down the files in his hand and raising his head, a young marine with a generous face was standing in front of his desk. Haha, Sengoku Admiral, I'm back. Lucar greeted heartily. Before, his attitude towards Sengoku Admiral was just as his own superior leader. After the follow-up incident on Hera Island, he had a more favorable impression of his immediate leader sitting in front of him. He felt that this was a person who also possessed justice. Feeling marine. It's Lucar, did you just come back to the headquarters? After seeing Lucar, Sengoku didn't care about the previous movement of entering the door directly. In his mind, Lucar and Garp were slowly connected together. Yeah, I just came back, I don't know what the new task arrangement is for Sengoku Admiral. Lucar asked directly about the arrangement of the headquarters here. There is no way, he is not as talkative as Nishizawa in this respect. As a reckless man, direct communication is his style. From the beginning, he invited Nishizawa to join. It has been so now. Do you have a task arrangement? Don't worry, your task headquarters has already been arranged, but you have to stay in the headquarters for a while. Your teacher Zephyr has arrangements here, so you will be recruited. Ms. Zephyr. Lucar looked puzzled. He couldn't think of what he could help teacher Zephyr now. Regardless of his strength or teaching ability, he was the one who was hanged. Yes, do you know what time it is now? Looking at Lucar's expression, Sengoku knew that he didn't need to wait for his answer, so he could explain it. Recently, the establishment of a new marine recruit training camp. This year, many of your talented students joined in. Zephyr arranged for you and Sakazuki. Pelusalino will let you guys at the recruitment ceremony. Let's have a discussion, give the newcomers some encouragement, and show off their strength as seniors. After listening to what Sengoku said, Lucar became more confused and frowned. If we really let the three of us fight, wouldn't these students be frustrated? Lucar knows the strength of the three very well. He doesn't believe that the students in this class have the strength of the three of them at the beginning, let alone all three of them have been in this sea for another year. You must know that in their class, many of the students in the same period were not able to endure the blow of the training camp. The geniuses who were originally in the branch found that they were dragging their feet after arriving at the headquarters, and gradually lost the motivation to move forward. Behind, there were even a few who were directly persuaded to return to the branch. Chapter 77 South Blue Recruit, Seeking Collection, Recommendation Ticket. Advertisement. Before he could speak out his doubts, Sengoku had already seen his doubts and went on. Don't worry, I know your worries. The three of you are indeed very strong, but you are not the only ones who are strong in this sea, there are more people who are stronger than you. Zephyr considers that these new students can feel the aura of the sea in advance. The recruits are also geniuses selected by each branch. If the heart is affected by just seeing the strength of the seniors, achievements since then are also limited. You must know that the establishment of the Marine Recruit Training Camp is to train excellent young Marine generals. The headquarters has spent a lot of resources and energy, not for mixing. As a good general, not only strength is needed, but also strong mind. You said that when you replaced it, would you be hit by a battle with a better senior than you? Sengoku explained in detail the purpose of this operation, not only the Lucar 3 simple demonstration of their strength, but also an assessment of the new batch of students. Of course not, I don't need to care how strong the opponent is. For me, going beyond is just a matter of time. After knowing the idea of the headquarter, Lucar knew that he had too little thinking. Next time, he can just do these things by himself, and leave the thinking to professional people. By the way, Sengoku Admiral, Sakazuki, are they both back? Thinking of these two people, they have not seen each other for a long time, and I don't know how these two guys have changed now. Not yet, your side is the fastest, but it's only 2 days, you can go back first and wait. Okay. Just as Lucar bid farewell to Sengoku Admiral and was about to get up and leave, a figure ran in and took a closer look. It was a little boy who seemed to be only about 7 or 8 years old. Daddy Sengoku, are you finished? When shall we go to the amusement park? The little boy shouted directly to Sengoku Admiral. Lucar's attention was drawn all of a sudden, and he couldn't help but swept back and forth on the two of them. Hiss. I thought Sengoku Admiral was single, but he also has children. The scene suddenly became a bit awkward. Ah, Lucar, you go back first. Sengoku broke the atmosphere and signaled Lucar to go first, then walked across the desk, came to the little boy, squatted down, and touched the little boy's head. Rosinant, you will wait here for a while, and I will accompany you after I finish correcting the documents here. Sengoku said in a very gentle tone that at this moment, he is no longer the highest-ranking general of the Marine, but a father who defaulted on his child's promise. Okay, I will wait for you, Dad Sengoku. The little boy named Rosinant was very good-hearted. After receiving Sengoku's promise, he sat on the sofa and waited honestly, never seeming to doubt what Sengoku said. Leaving Sengoku's office, Lucar smiled. He really didn't expect Sengoku Admiral to be like this. On the other side, Lucar's warship docked at Moon Bay Port, and Bullet sat on a stone pier at the dock, waiting for Nishizawa to arrange housekeeping. At this time, another medium-sized warship sailed into the port from a distance, and Bullet heard the exclamation of the warship from a distance. Are there any new students? It's really passionate. Nishizawa also found it on the warship. Seeing this familiar scene, I couldn't help thinking that they were also amazed by the size of the headquarters. Advertisement. A few minutes later, the warship successfully docked. The Marine students from other branches stepped off the warship one by one and came to the dock to look around, full of curiosity about everything in the headquarters. Huh, this guy seems a bit interesting. Bullet originally sat on the stone pier and waited boringly for the end of Nishizawa. As these new students stepped onto the ground of the headquarters, he randomly inquired about these new students, and he felt a unique breath from one of the soldiers. Locking his gaze on a 3-meter-tall student, he saw this tall student with black curly hair and a pair of black eye masks on his head, his eyes full of youthful vigor. This tall student looked a little different among the students of this branch, and even Bullet's attention couldn't help being attracted by this young man. Ah, the headquarters is really big, people have to feel the magnificence of justice. This little brother, are you also a student of this group of trainers? The tall student feels the gaze of others. He has become accustomed to what others think of him. This has always been the case when he was in the branch, but as his gaze swept to the source of his gaze, a special feeling spread. Come. It was just the first time he saw Bullet, that self-confident and powerful breath made him immediately realize the difference between this young man. He walked directly out of the team of his branch, walked in the direction of Bullet, and said hello. No. Bullet shook his head, started to leave the stone pier, and stood up. First just joined Marine not long ago and I can't join the recruit training camp, but I don't need it now. Looking at the young man who was about his age, Bullet could feel the difference of this Marine in front of him. It should be not simple in strength, which made him a little itchy. My name is Bullet, are you interested in having a game? The sudden invitation somewhat surprised this tall student. He seemed to think that he shouldn't come over to say hello. The other party actually chatted a few words, and he didn't even know who he was, so he directly sent out an invitation for discussion. Grasping the black curly hair with his hand, the tall student showed an awkward expression. Ah, my name is Kuzan, and I just entered Naval Headquarters, which is not so good. Receiving a refusal answer, Bullet lost interest in an instant. He only had the desire to fight for the young man in front of him, and he had no desire to understand other things. Bullet, get ready to go, let's go straight to Lucar's house. Nishizawa yelled to the Bullet under the ship on the warship, and he had finished the task of arranging on the warship. However, Nishizawa did not notice the episode under the ship, nor did he expect that Bullet would be interested in inviting new students to fight. After contacting these days, Nishizawa has probably become familiar with Bullet's character, and now he is more and more like Lucar, becoming an aggressive brash man. Whatever things are encountered, things that can be solved with fists will never be solved. Use your mouth. The difference between this kid and Lucar is that he is even more arrogant than Lucar, and he has no interest in the weak opponents. Only the strong can attract his attention. Especially when facing some relatively weak pirate groups, Bullet sometimes does not want to take action. In this regard, Lucar is better. At least when facing enemy pirates, his eyesight does not differ between strong and weak, all of them are destroy the object. Some pirate groups are too weak to have contempt, so let them go. Lucar's has a good saying. As long as it is a pirate in the sea, it must be wiped out, and no one can be spared. Regardless of whether this pirate group is strong or weak, you can never imagine how much harm your kindness will bring to ordinary civilians. Hearing Nishizawa's call, Bullet only dropped a word, dashed away, and left Kuzan behind to stay where he was. It's boring. Does the marine in the ivory tower only have this kind of aura? Chapter 78 See Zephyr, Seeking Collection, Recommendation Ticket. Advertisement. Kuzan didn't even have a chance to reply, he was the only one standing here alone. What an arrogant guy, I don't know if I have a chance to make up this invitation next time. Scratching his head, Kuzan's eyes revealed a little unconvinced. Yes, he was a little uncomfortable with the words before Bullet's final departure. He was not smooth sailing from the branch. He also participated in a lot of fierce battles in the branch. You should know that Kuzan is not a marine with a background identity. At first, he was only a wandering gangster. Finally, he was attracted by Marine's view of justice. Step by step, he has now, and he can successfully reach the naval headquarters. I'm here to he. A peculiar voice came, and Kuzan's figure standing in the same place suddenly darkened. He raised his head and saw a huge figure. Kuzan, what are you doing here? We are all going to the training camp. Don't leave the team. Okay, Saul, I see, I just ran into an interesting person. Kuzan replied casually that this giant was born into a giant family and had a huge body by nature, and he was also the one with the best relationship among recruits selected by the South Blue branch. Maybe it has something to do with height. The height of the two is the tallest among all the students in the South Blue branch. Later, they walked together unconsciously. After a little chat, they found that their personalities are very similar. In the end, they became very good friends on the boat. Friend. When leaving the dock, Kuzan glanced back at Bullet. He didn't expect to meet such an interesting character just as he boarded naval headquarters. It seems to be a warship called Lucar. It seems that I have heard of it before, so check back. Next time I have to play with you, I will let you know that I am not the so-called marine of the ivory tower. At night, in Lucar's small building, all three people gathered here. Let's go. I haven't seen Teacher Zephyr for a long time. Nishizawa, remember to bring a good drink, and I have to have a good meal with Teacher Zephyr tonight. Don't worry, I'm all ready. Nishizawa took a picture of the large boxes he was holding. He also missed Teacher Zephyr very much. He had a rare opportunity to get together when he came back this time. Of course, he would be well prepared. Then go. Lucar was very simple and did not continue to chat, took the lead out of the yard and walked towards the marine training camp. At the end was Bullet. He was a little curious, and he could teach an excellent marine like Lucar Gensize how powerful this marine admiral really is. Soon, Bullet's wish will be fulfilled. The moment he met Zephyr, he knew why this middle-aged man in front of him could become Marine's top combat force admiral position. The aura of the purple-haired man alone made Bullet a little impressed. This is the strongest person he has ever seen so far. There is no one, even the extremely powerful captain in his own mind, and he can't root this. Compared to Zephyr Admiral. Ha ha ha, it's not Lucar and Nishizawa, they haven't seen each other for a year, but you guys have made a lot of limelight. Zephyr was not in the office. At this time, he happened to check some training equipment that the new trainees would need to use in the training camp playground. At this time, he felt a few strong breaths and walked into his training camp. I just happened to bump into Lucar and his party, walked over, smiled and said hello. Teacher Zephyr, it's been a long time since I came back, so I will come to look for you. I won't be drunk or go home tonight. Seeing Teacher Zephyr, Lucar was also a little excited. It has been almost a year since the last time I saw Teacher Zephyr. Advertisement. During the training camp, Zephyr really taught him a lot of things, which allowed him to improve himself in a comprehensive and systematic manner, and to improve so quickly in the later period. Moreover, he is very similar to Zephyr in terms of justice, and he has a protective heart for civilians. The only difference is that there are some differences in the attitude towards pirates, but now Teacher Zephyr is also there will be no conflicts if you don't go to sea for hunting down. Walk around and drink at the old man's office. Zephyr took them to the office. After seeing Bullet, he was a little curious. It seemed that this marine was not his disciple, and he seemed quite good in strength. The aura after 100 battles on his body couldn't be concealed. Just a simple glance, Zephyr discovered that Bullet was different. Walking on the road, Zephyr didn't hold back the doubt in his heart and asked directly. This young man is. Hehehehe. Finally, when Zephyr asked, Lucar didn't answer directly, instead he smiled sneakily. Teacher Zephyr must have never imagined that I actually dug such good seedlings elsewhere. Without letting Zephyr wait too long, Nishizawa gave an explanation first. This is Douglas Bullet, a soldier originally from the kingdom of Arad on Hera Island, but was later recruited by Lucar and became a marine. Oh, you actually drew the soldiers from the franchise country into marine, probably causing a lot of trouble. As Admiral Zephyr, who has been in this sea for many years, he certainly knows the information of the kingdom of Arad. As a franchise country, he met the king of this country once at a world government meeting. Later, I heard that the kingdom is not easy to mess with, and I have had a deeper contact with the world government. Fortunately, Sengoku Admiral finally helped me deal with the follow-up matters. Now Bullet is officially a marine, but he can only stay on my boat. Now that Nishizawa spoke first, Lucar didn't need to stay in suspense anymore and continued Nishizawa's words. Hearing Lucar and Nishizawa's words, and looking at the silent young marine standing at the back, his curiosity became more intense, and his idea of drinking and gathering first went straight to the back of his mind. Stop drinking beforehand, Nishizawa, you put things away first. I want to take a closer look at how good this young man is. Let Lucar you actually interfere with the joining the country regardless of the matter. Zephyr gestured to Nishizawa to put down the wine he was holding, walked back to Bullet, stared at the young man carefully, and slapped the opponent's body with his hands from time to time. A trace of cold sweat dripped from behind Bullet's head, and when the Marine Admiral walked towards him, the other party did not restrain his breath at all. He completely released his aura of the pinnacle powerhouse, facing him positively, and as he got closer, the pressure became greater and greater. When Zephyr slapped his arm, he didn't hold back, and directly released his Conqueror's Haki. In an instant, the power of that strong man was disturbed by his Conqueror's Haki, at least it wouldn't have caused him so much pressure just now. Conqueror's Haki, Zephyr exclaimed directly. Originally, he had discovered that Bullet's physical fitness was very strong. I can faintly feel that the opponent's strength is not below the original Lucar, but when Bullet released Conqueror's Haki, he was still surprised. Why didn't he guess that the opponent would still be conquerors? This is an ability that many geniuses can hardly comprehend in a lifetime. It is true that this ability can only be awakened by pure talent, and cannot be awakened through acquired training. You must know that as Marine's top combat power, he has reached the top of the world's top powerhouse without awakening Conqueror's Haki. Chapter 79. Advertisement. What's my vision? Bullet is pretty good, Teacher Zephyr. Lucar was very satisfied with Bullet's performance and felt extremely proud of the decision he made at the time. You must know that I didn't care about the potential of Bullet at the time. At that time, I just thought that this young soldier had a good talent, but only if this were the case, he would not recruit himself. The decision that made him take action at that time was not the performance of Bullet, but the betrayal by the army of the Kingdom of Arad on the battlefield, which seriously conflicted with his values, which forced Lucar to take action to stop all of this. Later, when I was practicing on the deserted island, I discovered that the potential of Bullet was terrifying. This is a new monster who is not inferior to Lucar. Hiss. Zephyr retracted his momentum, took a breath, and looked at this young marine who was as strong as Lucar in surprise. You are not a genius, but a monster. If you entered the training camp with you, maybe there were more than 3 new monsters at the time. Zephyr kept admiring. This was his heartfelt appreciation and surprise. You must know that he has been a marine for so many years, and can be described as a monster-level marine. At that time, only Garp, Sengoku and him were qualified. The Crane Vice Admiral who grew up with them did not reach this level. In the following generations, many geniuses have also emerged in marine, but there is no marine that can make everyone think that it is a monster. Zephyr has not been in the new group of Lucar until the establishment of the recruit training camp. See this monster-level marine. However, just a short year later, he recently saw 2 newcomers marine who can be called monster level, and the other is Kuzan, the South Blue branch who greeted Bullet today. A feeling that he was old came to his mind, and Zephyr seemed to have seen the advent of the new marine era. There is no need to investigate Bullet anymore. With just a simple contact, Zephyr can already feel the strength of Bullet. Let's go. Let's have a drink tonight even if it is to welcome Bullet to join. Zephyr patted Bullet on the shoulder and encouraged. Good boy, your body is born to practice physical skills. You must know that I was not as good as you when I was your age. Follow Lucar to study. Whether it is strength or thinking, Lucar still has there are few good things worth learning. Thank you Zephyr Admiral, I will surpass the captain sooner or later. Without the pressure brought by Zephyr, Bullet felt a lot easier, but he still had a lot of good feelings about seeing this famous Marine Admiral for the first time. Perhaps there is a reason for the same line, Zephyr taught Lucar, and Lucar taught him. Haha, I am waiting for your challenge at any time. Looking at the harmony of the couple, Lucar felt very sufficient. It was the first time he felt family-like presence in these couples since his brother left. A group of people walked into Zephyr's general instructor office with a smile. Subsequently, there was a burst of outrageous laughter in the office from time to time. Bullet also reduced the strangeness of seeing Zephyr for the first time under the influence of alcohol, and quickly integrated into it. The party lasted until midnight, and Lucar told Zephyr what happened during the year. Advertisement. From time to time, I can get Zephyr's admiration. Of course, there are many lessons to his reckless behavior. Especially when we talked about Lucar secretly contacting the power of the Earth's core and accidentally blowing up a deserted island. Zephyr talked about it for half an hour. Finally, with the cooperation of Nishizawa's persuasive wine, the incident was dealt with. Confuse the past. At 2 o'clock in the morning, the wine that Nishizawa brought had been drunk by several people, and the party was about to end. Zephyr blushed and said to Lucar with a smile, "You have to perform well in this recruiting ceremony, don't let Sakazuki compare with Pelusalino that brat." Of course not. This opportunity is really rare. No one knows if there will be a chance to compete with these two guys in the future. Patting his chest, Lucar promised that after more than half a year of training in his own strength, especially the improvement in armament hockey, he is confident that he can win the other two. Don't worry, Zephyr Admiral, the captain will not lose to someone else. Bullet on the side also echoed that he had been training with Lucar, and he was more familiar with Lucar's improvement in strength than anyone else. Haha, that's good, I'll look at your performance when the time comes. There are many geniuses among the new students in this year, and there is even a young man who can rival the little monsters of you at that time. Don't drop the chain when the time comes. If you lose face in front of these schoolboys, I will be ashamed as a teacher. Zephyr looked a little drunk, and his mouth seemed to be a little worried, but his eyes were very bright, and he was very confident about the strength of the three Lucars and the performance by then. Teacher Zephyr, don't worry, Lucar will never shame you in terms of strength. Nishizawa is right, sir, you see when I have dropped the chain, I will let these juniors look at the strength of the seniors back then. Hearing the agitation in Zephyr's words, Lucar instantly became energetic, grinning and answering, revealing his row of white teeth. Originally, I was a little casual about this display, but I just satisfied my wishes for the two guys. Now Teacher Zephyr has started to encourage him. If you can't keep it, let's go all out. In the next round of the much-anticipated competition, Lucar's desire to fight also began to rise, and some looked forward to the arrival of this ceremony. I hope that those guys will not be surprised by their own strength. With Lucar's assurance, Zephyr nodded his head in satisfaction. He was afraid that among these guys, especially Pelusalino, who was too oily, would lose the chain, which would break the other two and bring the power to the game. The feast turned into a joke. But as long as Lucar is strong enough here, and he is not afraid of the other two paddling, Lucar's character will arouse their fighting passion. Come here quickly, let me see what kind of strength Marine, who is comparable to the captain of the same period, really has. When the bullet on the side heard this feast of battle, his eyes were filled with battle flames, and he couldn't wait to participate in it, and couldn't help but whispered expectantly beside him. He knows that there is still a gap between him and Lucar. This is the distance brought by time, which cannot be achieved by his efforts. You must know that when he was training hard, Lucar even worked harder than him. The gap between the two is difficult to narrow. Perhaps only when Lucar encounters a bottleneck period can he have a chance to catch up with the captain. Since I don't have the strength to participate, I will take this rare opportunity to see the full strength of the captain, and hope that the other two Marines will be more powerful, so that the captain can give full play to his combat effectiveness. Chapter 83 People Gathering, Seeking Collection, Recommended Ticket. Advertisement. A week has passed since Lucar's meeting in Zephyr's office, and the warships from various branches that transported new recruits to the recruit training camp have also arrived at naval headquarters one after another. These days, Lucar saw young Marine soldiers entering the headquarters one after another. The entire naval headquarters seemed to have lost some seriousness during this period, but had more lively vitality. Captain, don't you train today? Bullet looked a little curiously at Lucar, who was not training today. He wore a simple white shirt in the evening and walked out of the yard. It didn't look like he was going to work. Ah, the two guys Sakazuki and Pelusalino have arrived. I will go over and get together when I have an appointment. I will be back later. Lucar explained, and then walked out of his yard. Yes, both of them actually arrived at the headquarters. If Pelusalino hadn't called him, he wouldn't know about it, and thought the other two were still floating at sea. Sakazuki arrived the next day after Lucar arrived at the headquarters. Pelusalino was the last one to arrive yesterday. Today, I made an appointment with him and the three of them were alone together. Bullet stayed in the yard, wondering what else he would talk about at this three-person gathering, and wanted to go and see it. It's a pity that Lucar didn't intend to take him over. It is estimated that this is only a separate gathering of the three of them. Leaving the yard, Lucar walked towards the small town behind the main building. That guy Porcelino actually used the phone bug, hee, I haven't seen it for so long, but I have learned a lot. Thinking of this, Lucar couldn't help but chuckle. He never thought that Pelusalino was so talented in learning that he was second only to Nishizawa in the batch of Chinese cultural courses. However, this guy can't learn how to use the phone worm as simple as it seems to be inherently resistant to this stuff. When he came to the town, Lucar looked up at the name of the restaurant, confirmed that it was the one he had arranged, and walked directly into the Tongfu restaurant. Following the guidance of the waiter, he walked into a quiet room on the second floor. Inside the box. Yo, Lucar, it's been a long time. Seeing Lucar coming in, Pelusalino lay leisurely on the leather sofa and waved hello. There is a combination of East and West in the whole box. There are several black leather sofas and a large round table made of Eastern mahogany. It feels a bit nondescript and weird to Lucar. But in this world, many things are messy, and there are all kinds of things. Sakazuki, who was sitting on the other side, did not speak, but looked up at Lucar and nodded slightly. Long time no see, Pelusalino, Sakazuki, it's been almost a year since we graduated, right? When talking about Sakazuki, Lucar paused a bit, but said hello anyway. Haha, this time, Sakazuki asked us to come over, but he asked me to answer the call and let you know. Oh, I thought you would use a phone worm. When Lucar heard this message, he was puzzled and sat directly on the remaining sofa in the middle, sitting right between the two. Cut. Hearing Lucar's complaints, Pelusalino pouted, his expression looked very wretched. Advertisement. Sakazuki, is there something you called us over? Without hiding the doubts in his heart, Lucar readily asked. He really couldn't guess the purpose of Sakazuki's game. And this time only 3 of them participated. If it was just to organize a meeting, it is unlikely that the person who brought his warship would be prevented from coming. This is not Sakazuki's style. Sakazuki did not speak immediately, leaving the two to stare at him curiously. He took out a cigar from Kabuto and pointed it directly with his fingers. The sitting posture with Erlang's legs and the serious and fierce face looked alive and well. A gangster. Call. Lucar, do you know the attitude of the world government toward you? Sakazuki took a cigar, slowly spit out the smoke, and spoke casually to Lucar. What's the meaning? World government. I don't have much contact with the world government, so why'd I ask? Lucar frowned, did not understand Sakazuki's meaning, looked up at him and shook his head. Oh, don't you really care about these? The world government is very concerned about the 3 of us, intending to train the 3 of us in the direction of Marine Admiral, and now Lucar, you have a bad impression in the eyes of the world government. Your next actions may be affected a bit, do you remember Ian? Ian. After turning around in his mind, without searching for the name, Lucar was at a loss and didn't understand what the other party was going to say. He knew the attitude of the world government towards the 3 people. Nishizawa had analyzed with him before, but after several contacts with the people from the CP department, he knew that his behavior was rather disgusting to the world government. Didn't you have contact with officials of the world government in the training camp before? Ian should be the one who contacted you. Which short winter melon? Sakazuki's detailed explanation reminded Lucar of the short official. Dwarf melon. Haha, it's interesting, yes, it's him. This description made Sakazuki couldn't help showing a smile, and then retracted it again, regaining his previously stiff face. Ah, do you know that Ian did everything that happened to you on Kola Island? Including Jabba that we dealt with before, and the army of underground pirates you encountered later. When Sakazuki's news came out, it was not only that Lucar's brow furrowed deeper, but Pelusalino's expression was a bit serious, not as casual as before. Obviously, neither of them thought that when they were on Kola Island for the first time, the Jabba incident involving the Roger pirates was actually led by this short winter melon. Sakazuki, where did you hear the news? Pelusalino asked. Oh, I acted with this Ian on the mission before coming back this time. I learned that when I contacted him, everything is behind Lucar for you, and your next actions are estimated to be there as action. I hope you will be a little more careful about attacks from behind. Lucar looked at Sakazuki in shock. Although some conflicts with this short winter melon at the time could cause surprise attacks on the backside again and again, his snack was shocked, but he did not expect that the vengeance he would deal with would be so heavy. But he was not shocking Ian's revenge, but because Sakazuki told him all of these things, which surprised him the most. What does Sakazuki mean? Why did you tell me these contents, and also specially reminded me that the contents of these messages can never be collected by simple contact? What did Sakazuki do? The doubts in my heart are getting heavier and heavier. Since entering this room, new questions have constantly emerged in my heart. Unfortunately, at this time, there is no Nishizawa by his side. Lucar's own brain cells have died, and Sakazuki's purpose has not been guessed. Chapter 81 Information Exchange, Seeking Collection, Recommendation Ticket. Advertisement. Oh, Lucar, if you plan to go in the direction of Admiral, then pay attention to contact with the people of the world government, and finally be careful with this guy named Ian. With this guy, it is difficult for you to change the way the world government treats you. Attitude, let's talk about it here. Sakazuki said that when Lucar paid attention to Ian, he suddenly took a murderous look on her body, faintly reminding Lucar. Is this asking me to kill that short winter melon? Of course, Lucar could see this obvious hint, but he didn't know why Sakazuki treated himself like this time. Next, Sakazuki didn't mention this content again, just briefly talked about his content this year. Perhaps Lucar's doubts can only be analyzed by Nishizawa after the party. The atmosphere between the 3 of them was not as solemn as it was at the beginning, and they all chatted about their situation this year. With the beginning of Sakazuki, then Lucar and Pelusalino did not hide their information, and they talked about what happened to them, including Pelusalino's highest level mission of world government and Lucar's in Hera. The conflict on the island. Porsarino, does the scientist you mentioned have such an important position in the eyes of the world government? Sakazuki's eyes lit up when he heard Dr. Vegapunk's message. Oh, Sakazuki, you are actually curious about a scientist's information, but the world government really values this scientist. It is said that this person has 500 years of knowledge beyond this era, and even CP0 agents have been dispatched. If there is a chance, I hope you can get in touch with this scientist more, maybe this scientist can bring us marine overall improvement. Well, I will pay attention. Poor quickly understood what the other party meant, and he knew how much it would benefit Marine if Vegapunk invented some useful works. Lucar on the other side didn't care about the scientist's information. For him, this kind of brainstorming person and his own kind of reckless person are completely two worlds. Lucar is concerned about Sakazuki's side. This is the first time he has discovered Sakazuki's ambition, the kind of passion for marine. I don't know what Sakazuki has experienced this year, and now he completely broke the impression of his brash man, which is completely different from him. Sakazuki has the spirit of fighting for marine as a whole, but he only pays attention to the present, pays attention to the improvement of his personal strength, and focuses on being able to execute his righteous way to the things in front of him. Okay, Mr. Zephyr is going to organize a competition between the three of us. You should have all been notified. After the three people talked about themselves this year, Sakazuki advanced the arrangement of Zephyr in the near future. Old Zephyr, it's really troublesome. Hearing this topic, Pelusolino slackened suddenly, as if he had no interest in this battle at all, and returned to his usual state, not as serious as he had previously discussed with Sakazuki. Haha, this opportunity is good. We have known each other for so long and haven't had a good time to learn from each other. Let us enjoy this battle. When Lucar heard the discussion about this competition, his emotions suddenly rose. For him, it was a simple battle that attracted his interest, not to mention that this was a battle he had been looking forward to. Brother Lucar is terrible. Advertisement. Poor Salino showed a frightened expression. I think this opportunity can take a look at our progress over the course of the year, and see who has slackened between us. To implement marine justice, we need corresponding strength. Sakazuki didn't resist, he was confident about his improvement this year, especially when his eyes were on Lucar. You must know that he had already fought Lucar in the Kola Island. Although he did not fight to the end, he knew in his heart that he was likely to lose if he hit the end. This makes Sakazuki, who treats himself strictly, dissatisfied. He doesn't think he will be weaker than Lucar. This is his self-confidence as a strong man. Yes, I have made a lot of progress this time. I hope you will bring me a little pressure. Sakazuki was looking at Lucar, but Lucar was staring at Pelusolino, preaching his declaration of battle wantonly. Yes, in Lucar's mind, Pelusolino was the oldest of the three at the training camp. At that time, he vaguely felt that he was probably the strongest of the three. In addition, his fruitful ability is really pervert. Anyone can get 50 to 50. The feeling was even more obvious when dealing with Jabba together. Among the three, Pelusolino had the least resistance. Oh, what a terrible pinch. As usual, poor Salino said his unique sorrow, and he held the round sunglasses with his hand. It seemed that he was stimulated by the two of them, and he also exuded his desire to fight. Don't look at him being lazy. It seems that everything doesn't matter. But being able to have such a strong combat power is not only the ability of the top Logia Devil Fruit, but also that Marine has a lot of Logia Demon Fruit power before. Appear, but there is no situation like the three of them are called monsters by everyone. Pelusolino also has his heart of being a strong man, but everything is hidden under his external performance. Perhaps the belief in his heart is not less than that of Lucar. The momentum of the three people continued to condense and improve in this box, and the accessories in the entire box began to shake. As they continued to improve their momentum, there was a knock on the door. Guests, please don't fight in the box. Our store is invested by Marine. If you break something, you need to pay the original price. It turned out that the aura of the three directly affected the entire restaurant, and the person in charge of their store could only hold back the panic in his heart and knock on the door to remind them. Cough, it's okay, we didn't fight, sorry for interrupting you. The sound outside the door interrupted the stalemate of the three people, and all of his aura was dissipated. Lucar opened the door and apologized to the person in charge of the restaurant. The three of them did not continue to fight each other, but simply chatted about small things. Sakazuki never extinguished his cigar. Lucar took a few bottles of specialty wine in the restaurant to have a drink, while Pelusolino asked for a pot of tea. The three of them had three different hobbies, but they seemed to have so a touch of harmony. The party lasted until 10 o'clock in the evening. The three said a simple goodbye at the entrance of the restaurant. The next meeting was at the recruiting ceremony arranged by Zephyr. Everyone was full of fighting spirit when they left. Sakazuki was the last to leave, looking at the back of his two friends leaving at the same time, and said softly. The next must be our era, the Marine era, the Justice era. Then he turned and left. What no one saw was that when Sakazuki explained his ambition, the three of them smiled tacitly at the same time. Chapter 82 Marine Faction, Seeking Collection, Recommended Ticket. Advertisement. Back at his house, Lucar had been thinking about the content of the three-person gathering. He wanted to talk to Nishizawa, but considering that it was a bit late, he decided to ask again tomorrow. Captain, are you back? When I walked into the yard, I saw that Bullet hadn't rested yet, and he was training in the yard. Lucar was not surprised. This is the daily operation of the two of them, and their free time is basically training. These two people have no idea of relaxing and resting. Perhaps in their hearts, training is the easiest time. When the muscles start to swell and sweat starts to drip, they will not feel tired and painful, but they will feel that their life is now there. Meaning, every moment of training is for a better self next time. Thinking of the upcoming battle, I immediately decided to continue training before it arrives and adjust my state to the best. Bullet, come, let's practice for a while. Of course, Bullet would not refuse, and the two started to fight directly in the yard with pure physical skills. In the next few days, Lucar had been cultivating hard in his yard, silently waiting for the arrival of the day of battle. Time flies quickly. 10 days after Lucar's three-person gathering, all training camp students from all branches have arrived at Naval Headquarters smoothly, and the day of this special recruiting ceremony has also arrived. When Lucar was chatting in his residence, Reagan Nazizer, he received a notice from Zephyr, ordering to go to the pier at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's finally here. Is Lucar ready? Nishizawa put away the long sword on the table and asked Lucar, who was wearing the Marine Justice coat on the opposite side. Haha, of course, don't worry, I've been looking forward to it for a long time. Without staying here, Lucar walked straight out. Bullet, stop practicing, get ready to go. I yelled to the Bullet, who was training in the yard. This time I participated in the recruiting ceremony, and of course I had to bring my own crew. How could there be less people in such a big scene? Yes, Captain. The group was ready to set off directly and came to the pier. There is still some time before the assembly time, but the dock is already crowded, and all the recruits have already assembled at the dock. A lot of people, it seems that is Sengoku Admiral. Lucar found that there were not only recruits from the training camp, but also several generals from the headquarters, and even saw Sengoku Admiral. There are so many people. It seems that it is not only for the recruiting students to show your strength. Lucar, as the students who are the main focus of naval headquarters, this time is also the opportunity for the three of you to show your strength to all Marines in the headquarters. Rear Admiral understands that you will be invited to join based on the situation of this battle. Soon, Nishizawa analyzed some more goals behind the operation based on the situation on the spot. Yes, of course Sengoku will not waste such a good opportunity. After discussing with Zephyr, he probably assessed the strength of the three Lucars and decided to let the Marine generals of the headquarters participate in the battle. Marine is not a simple small organization. It is the world's top military organization. It has a huge number of Marine soldiers. Where there are people, there will be rivers and lakes, and it is not harmonious in the interior. There are a lot of internal frictions between Marines and groups, forming internal factions. This style was in the early days of Marine. Back then, there were two largest factions between the noble Marine and the civilian Marine. With the rise of the civilian Marine, so many Marines from different regions, the civilian Marine faction has also begun to split. Due to interests, values and other reasons, several different factions have also formed. Advertisement. The excellence of the three Lucars certainly attracted the attention of these factions. Some wanted to draw them in, and some wanted to follow. Of course, the Marine faction that followed was a minority now. After all, the qualifications of the three were still a little younger. And Nishizawa made friends with many Marine generals of their respective factions within Marine. Of course, he knew the internal structure of Marine. Seeing the scene made him quickly guess some of the purpose of the headquarters. Hey, there are still such things, it's so troublesome, forget it, you will be responsible for contacting these things, Nishizawa, I am not interested in these. Lucar didn't expect so much content. He thought it was a pure battle and discussion from Teacher Zephyr. Don't worry, Lucar, before this operation, I have been in contact with many factions within Marine. I don't think we need to join, especially after this battle. Maybe we will also become one of the factions within Marine. There will be people who want to join us. Nishizawa replied confidently, yes, maybe his personal strength is not too outstanding, but in terms of intelligence collection and analysis, he admits that he is not inferior to anyone. Okay, just listen to you. It's not necessary for me. As long as I can reach the Admiral level in strength, everything like this faction is useless. I understand what you mean, and I believe I will handle it. We will not join these factions. This also conflicts with your idea of justice. As long as you don't let them hostile us. Of course I believe you, I will listen to your arrangements. Lucar knew that he was not good at handling these things and would not intervene in Nishizawa's movements. He had always trusted Nishizawa's abilities the most, and he had already regarded Nishizawa as his own Zug strategist. Brother Lucar, you have arrived. Behind him came Pelusalino's strange voice of greeting. Kazaru Rear Admiral, Nishizawa responded. You will arrive early. I thought you would have to get stuck. Lucar has become accustomed to Pelusalino's repeated coincidences from behind. Haha, Nishizawa is good, it's been a long time since I saw you. Pelusalino responded to Nishizawa first, then turned to look at Lucar. I don't want to be so early, I was pulled over by the guy Sakazuki, look. Lucar looked in the direction he was pointing. Sakazuki had already arrived, just 100 meters away. He was greeting Zephyr Admiral at this moment. After all, the two of them were not as stiff as the relationship between Pelusalino and Zephyr. They all respect this Marine Admiral who taught them for a year. Let's go there too. Pelusalino was pulled by Lucar, and the group approached Zephyr. Bullet followed behind and kept his eyes on the two of Sakazuki and Pelusalino, seeming to want to see the strength of the two from the outside. It's a pity that in Pelusalino's normal state, it is difficult for him to feel the aura of a strong man from this person, but Sakazuki's breath of a purely military strong made Bullet feel it at a glance. Well, you guys get ready, and then move forward in accordance with the direction of the old man's warships, keeping the warships at a safe distance from each other. Zephyr was discussing the precautions for the next voyage with the commanders of several warships, and saw Lucar and his group wave their hands. As the chief person in charge of this operation, Zephyr is very busy now. Nishizawa, it's great for you to be here, wait for me to arrange this mission together. Lucar, you guys can just follow behind the fleet. It's a bit busy here. I'll arrange it first. It's all to Sengoku, who suddenly joined so many people in. Zephyr didn't have time to chat with Lucar and several people. After a brief chat, he borrowed Nishizawa directly, and was still complaining about Sengoku's troubles as he walked. Chapter 83 Recruit Ceremony, Seeking Collection, Recommendation Ticket. Advertisement. Lucar and others who stayed in place looked at each other. Forget it. Let's go too. Unexpectedly, he just came over and lost Nishizawa. Lucar scratched his head and planned to return directly to his warship. Okay, brother Lucar, see you then. Porcelino also said goodbye and left slowly. Subsequently, under Zephyr's arrangement and command, the order of the numerous marine personnel on the scene became orderly. When it was the appointed time of departure, dozens of marine warships drove out of the Moon Bay port mightily. After 3 days of sailing, this huge fleet came to the back of naval headquarters Malin Vander, near an uninhabited island in the calm belt. This deserted island has no mountains, it is all an endless plain, and the size is slightly smaller than the previous Kola Island. As this an abandoned mine island? Lucar's observations and colors observe the topography of this deserted island. There are many large holes and pits on this flat plain. It is guessed that they are mines left after the mining, and traces of human existence can be vaguely seen. Now they are all deserted. Yes, Teacher Zephyr specially found this abandoned mine island. Many years ago, the headquarters had been mining here for a period of time. Later, when the mineral resources were exhausted, this deserted island was abandoned. Teacher Zephyr specially selected this island in consideration of the destructive power of your Logia fruits. Previously, it was used as the main mine island. The island's firmness is much stronger than other ordinary islands, and it can withstand your battles. After helping Zephyr, Nishizawa returned to the warship, Boulder, and told the information he had learned on Zephyr's side. Ms. Zephyr is interested. Lucar was very satisfied with this battlefield, and finally he was able to completely release his abilities, without worrying about whether the battlefield could be withstood. Dozens of warships from naval headquarters docked on the side of this abandoned mine island. I didn't know this scene and thought Marine had launched a buster call. There are 2 Admiral-class Marines and 8 Vice Admiral. The number of generals down is even greater, and with dozens of warships, this firepower configuration can even be said to have surpassed the conventional buster call. Some Marine soldiers who were guarding the warship were left, and the rest were disembarked. The scene was divided into 3 groups. The first group of trainees led by Zephyr walked in the middle of the team to a slightly higher position on the south side of the island. It seems that Zephyr has been prepared. A huge stone of more than 20 meters long was placed on this high slope. This stone was used as the platform for the recruiting ceremony. Zephyr stepped onto the stone and began to give a speech on recruiting admissions. In addition, the 3 Lucar and their soldiers stood on the right side of the training camp, and on the left were a group of generals led by Sengoku Admiral. Looking at Zephyr's speech, he seemed to have gone back to the naval headquarters 2 years ago when they first entered the naval headquarters. In a blink of an eye, they have now become a member of the audience. Okay, I won't talk about the others so much. I think the long-awaited show session for seniors will begin soon. Come on up and say hello to the students. Kazaru Rear Admiral Porcelino. Akainu Rear Admiral Sakazuki. Boulder Commodore Lucal. Advertisement. Selena Gomez's 9 lovers. Justin Bieber, Orlando Bloom, and more. Inspire. Yes, so far, Lucar's military rank is the lowest. Kazaru and Akainu completed the tasks of the world government respectively, and he was officially promoted to Rear Admiral when he was in the headquarters. Especially Kazaru jumped 2 ranks at once. The 3 tall and sturdy Marines wore white cloaks of justice and took firm steps towards the huge stone platform in the middle. Everyone present, including the generals on Sengoku's side, focused their eyes on the 3 of them. When the 3 of Lucar came to the platform and walked all the way, their aura condensed to the highest peak. Everyone exuded a strong aura. The confident and invincible aura made many training camp students feel oppressive. Since, the figures of the 3 are deeply imprinted in their hearts. Ah, is this the first monster senior? As expected, it is as strong and terrifying as the rumors. Kuzan in the audience looked at the 3 of them with fighting spirit in their eyes. Kuzan, I believe you can surpass them. The giant friend Saul next to him knew how high-spirited his good friend was. What's more, Kuzan also gained the title of Monster in South Blue, and encouraged Kuzan. Don't worry, you will see, sooner or later I will be as strong as them. Kuzan answered very confidently. He was not hit by the 3 men on the stage at all. Instead, he was more passionate, imagining that he would become such a strong man in the future, standing in front of the stage confidently and preaching his own justice. Yes, the 3 people on the stage preached their views on justice to everyone. The only thing that was not in harmony was that Pelusolino actually said that he was just reckless justice. Zephyr directly turned his face off the court and regretted pulling this person on stage. It was too embarrassing, and there was even a snicker on the spot. In fact, Pelusolino was also very helpless. He really hadn't thought about what his justice should be, so he could only make a fool of his personality. He was not like the other 2 who had already determined his own values before entering the headquarters, an absolute justice, and an uncompromising justice, and he was not very interested in these 2, and was not suitable for him at all. This time, some small embarrassing scenes made Pelusolino begin to wonder whether he has to find himself a sense of justice in the future. Marine still values this. On the stage, Pelusolino made a decision. Later, he will observe other people's views on justice, and sum up one that suits him. Otherwise, the reckless view of justice is indeed a bit inappropriate. What Pelusolino didn't expect was that many years later, he just polished the word sufeng a bit, and the essence hasn't changed at all. Zephyr was worried about what shameful scenes would appear next. After watching the 3 people on stage simply preach, he went directly to the stage and did not give them the opportunity to continue speaking, and ended the session. Well, that's the end of the speeches of the three seniors. I believe you have already seen the three seniors. The next step is the highlight. After Zephyr finished speaking, he pointed his finger down in the direction of the island plain, and looking down from this high slope, it was an endless view, which was really an excellent spot to watch the battle. I also taught the three of you personally for a year. Because of various reasons, I didn't ask you to conduct a competition. Next, let us see how much progress you have made after graduation. Now, the recruit training camp ceremony, the seniors battle demonstration officially begins. With Zephyr's last shout, the Marine soldiers on both sides of the trainees fired in unison, announcing the start of the battle feast. The three of Lucar looked at each other, and they all showed a confident smile. Two brothers, don't make too much effort. Yada mirror. After Pelusolino finished speaking, a refracted laser light was emitted in his hand. When it hit the desert island plain, the whole person disappeared in place and appeared directly on the plain. Chapter 84 Opening Provocation, Seeking Collection, Recommendation Ticket. Advertisement. Then let's start 2, Jets. Sakazuki's feet turned into magma, and the ground was melted by the hot high temperature. Under the magma jet, he flew directly into the air and flew towards the plane. Damn it, why can't you just make an appearance? If it doesn't work, use Marine 6 styles to fly over, why use Devil Fruit ability? The actions of the two made Lucar a little embarrassed, and the other two appeared so cool that he froze in place. Lucar has always focused on practical tactics, without thinking about any beautiful moves, and the ability of the Earth Fruit is not in this style. The Earth is more simple, without magma, the laser is so gorgeous and domineering. Feeling the gaze from everyone behind, curiously watching what way he would play, only Nishizawa and Bullet were laughing, they both knew Lucar's abilities too well. Hiss. Lucar secretly took a breath of air, wondering how to play better. After thinking about it, he thought of a way, put his hands together, and shouted. Rock slide. The huge rock platform under his feet began to shake for a while and flew directly. Lucar stepped on this huge rock and flew directly to the plane. Wow, what is this? Can seniors still be like this? Huh, this kid Lucar is doing a lot of bells and whistles. The recruit students behind the original platform exclaimed that this kind of big scene is rarely seen in the original branch. Of course, the last cold snort was made by Zephyr. He was still standing on the platform just now. Lucar's operation forced him to jump off. If he was also brought into the battlefield, then this feast of battle would really be it's a funny event. Boom. With a loud noise, the huge stone fell to the ground, shaking the surrounding dust. Brother Lucar, what a big movement. Hee hee, it looks like you are planning to fight in the sky, right? Lucar stood on the rock and looked up at the two flying in the air. Although he was able to fight in the air, he still felt annoyed inexplicably, and seemed to be a little dissatisfied with the two people's decision to fight in the air. Fortunately, this little thing is still understandable by Lucar, especially since the three have cooperated and fought together when they were on Kola Island, and they all had some understanding of their respective methods. HMPH, don't want to give you a sneak attack like last time. Sakazuki spoke out his decision directly, without intending to fall to the ground and fight him. Sakazuki and Jabba suffered a lot from the seismic waves from the underground before Lucar was on Kola Island. Regarding this unpreventable method, both Sakazuki unanimously decided not to fight on the ground. Haha, alright, Lucar smiled heartily and said that he could accept the approach of the two. This kind of fighting method is indeed effective. As long as he can win, he will also make this choice. Since you all plan to fight in the air, come on. Although it is a little troublesome, I can't do anything about it. If that's the case, then I'll blow up the field first. Lucar stamped his foot to the ground. Flying rock breakthrough. Shoo shoo shoo. As Lucar stepped on the ground, cracks opened directly, and pieces of red spikes sprang from the cracks and shot directly into the sky. Advertisement. This skill was used when he was playing against Sakazuki on Kola Island, and now it has been upgraded. It has all been transformed into red rocks with a trace of the power of the Earth's core. The small rock spikes have also increased in speed. A lot. Now the entire plane was completely covered by Lucar's rock spikes, and he flew quickly to the two people in the air. The entire battlefield seemed to be raining red, but the rain was flying backwards. The two people in the air were covered by the dense red rain, and there was no room to escape, but their expressions remained unchanged. Is that the only thing? The magma cannon. Its terrible pinch, laser laser. Laser lasers and magma missiles were shot from the hands of the two, respectively, smashing the red raindrops around them one by one. Of course it's more than that. Lucar did not feel annoyed that his moves were cracked by the opponent, and squeezed his open palm firmly. Bang bang bang. The rainwater composed of red rocks burst directly at high altitude, and the entire sky flashed a huge red fire. After the explosion, a huge black mist shrouded the sky, covering the bodies of the two people. The recruit students on the crowd were excited. They didn't expect to have a big scene at the beginning, but what they didn't know was that it was just a starter. With the onlookers and Lucar directly under the trio, their expressions were indifferent. One side felt that the scene was changed to something he could accept, and the other side was too familiar with the trio's methods and looked at the real ones. The big scene, this kind of appetizer will not be shaken anymore. Oh, Lucar has improved a lot. This ability is starting to be used in more detail. Zephyr nodded slightly when he saw the movements of the three, seemingly satisfied with the progress of the three. Well, it's not bad, it should be real next. Lucar made them a little bit angry. Sengoku agrees with Zephyr's view that the two of them have powerful observation haki, and they can see the details more clearly than others, and know the situation on the court more clearly. Lucar, do you only know this little trick? The black mist dissipated a little bit, and the figures of the two of them gradually became clear. There were some small wounds on their bodies. There was no injury on the whole, but the clothes on their bodies looked a little damaged. Sakazuki looked at Lucar below with an angry face, and was very dissatisfied that the other party had adopted such a small trick again. Ah, the next step is to put pressure on Lucar, otherwise I will keep doing this, and I will be very upset. Poor Salino was also dissatisfied. Ha ha ha, it seems that your experience and color have not grown enough this year. Seeing the embarrassed appearance and angry expressions of the two, Lucar nodded, satisfied with his masterpiece, and laughed and mocked directly. Teacher Zephyr, so that my task is completed, I don't believe that it's still hot. Yes, these are things that Lucar deliberately did, and there were several armament haki attached to him in the red rock just now. Coupled with his apparently stronger experience than the two, he secretly concealed these rocks in a wide range of skills, and suddenly attacked during the last wave of explosions, causing some small wounds to the two. Obviously, the most important thing for the success of this trick is his observation haki. Whether it is hiding movement or locking control, it is difficult to succeed without that powerful experience. Previously, Zephyr teacher reminded him that there may be a situation where the opponent may paddle, which may not meet everyone's expectations, so Lucar intends to provoke the two at the beginning of the battle, so that he does not believe them. Can bear it. Obviously, the effect of this trick is very good, and the two of them did not have any intention to release the water, and at the same time they turned their eyes on Lucar. Since Lucar you want to play with you. The magma on Sakazuki's body was even more fierce. He was originally a fierce temper, and now he was completely ignited by Lucar. Chapter 85. Advertisement. Sakazuki raised both fists, all the magma on his body was condensed on his hands, spraying magma bombs towards the sky, and quickly rushed into the sky covered by black mist. Meteor volcano. Yep, is it true? Lucar felt a sense of oppression from the sky. He looked up, and his body was already condensed with a new version of the black and red earth armor. He could clearly see the horror of Sakazuki's move. In just a moment, huge magma fists in the sky burst out from the black fog, and a large area locked Lucar and Pelusolino, and smashed them at them. The power of this move is clearly different from Lucar's previous move just from the sense of pressure that can be felt. Well, it's really moving. Poor Salino folded his hands on his chest, the whole person turned into a cross flash, and the originally gray sky became brighter. Bakichong Guyu. From Pelusolino's cross laser body, countless golden laser bullets were quickly fired. The marine soldiers in the observation area in the distance couldn't bear the irritation of the light, and raised their hands to block them. It's really dazzling. Lucar was very satisfied with the action of the two men starting to shoot with all their strength, and the desire to fight on his body reached its peak. With his hands folded, the whole island trembled. Sword of the cliff. In the four directions beside Lucar, four huge red rock pillars with a thickness of 5 meters quickly sprang from the ground, directly facing the attack of two people on the opposite side. Boom. This collision and explosion sound is nothing short of the previous collision. This time even the entire island was shaking. Even the Marines watching from a distance, many soldiers and students were directly knocked to the ground by this collision, and their minds were shaken to the ground. There was a roar, and he was temporarily deaf. If they were a little surprised before, this time it really gave many soldiers a look of fear. One by one, he wondered whether this was an attack that humans could strike. It could be said that it was Tianwei. Hi, Kuzan, is it possible for you to play such a powerful ability? Kuzan was also a little shocked by the fluctuation, his eyes were a little dignified, and he slowly shook his head when he heard the question from his friends around him, and gritted his teeth. I can't do it now. I am no better than the 3 seniors in the development of fruit ability alone, but they can grow to this kind of ability. It is taught by teacher Zephyr. Sooner or later, I will reach this state. Hey, that's it, scared. A discordant voice came, and Kuzan turned his head to look, and a familiar tall figure appeared beside him. Let's continue. My captain's strength is more than that. It was Bullet who was talking. When he saw Kuzan among Marine students, he walked over here. He was still very interested in Kuzan, the Marine. Especially when he saw the battle between the captain and the 3 of them, his desire to fight continued to rise. The most suitable opponent here is this Marine called Kuzan. Isn't this kind of powerful yet? Kuzan was a little surprised. Didn't this kind of power have yet to exert his full strength? How strong the 3 people in that field really were. Hee, if the other 2 are just like this, then the captain must have won. Bullet put his arms around his chest, did not continue to talk, looked towards the middle of the plane. At this time, the vibration on the ground has been reduced. Some recruit students climbed up from the ground, and sweat began to shed on their faces. At this time, the temperature on this desert island had risen more than 10 degrees. Advertisement. Whether it's Sakazuki's magma or Lucar's sword of cliffs that condense the power of the Earth's core, they are all in a state of high temperature and high pressure. One-time large-scale collisions have caused the island's temperature to rise rapidly, and the naked eye can even see the heat flow in the air. Fluctuations. Ah la la la, it's so hot, let's cool down. Kuzan felt very uncomfortable with the high temperature. His hands were frozen, and a cold air spread from his hands to the ground. White cold frost appeared on the ground, and the high temperature of the high slope was suddenly suppressed. Oh, you still have this hand. This trick surprised Bullet a little, and was a little curious about Kuzan's abilities. The battle on the battlefield did not stop without outside onlookers. Speed is power. Have you ever been kicked by light? A golden figure appeared behind Lucar, kicking his head at the speed of light. Shard rock fist. Bang. With a backhand hit with a right fist to block it, Lucar's action did not end. After repelling Pelusolino with his stronger strength, he immediately turned around with the force of the punch just now, and shortly charged a shot. Rock fist gun. Blocked a huge magma fist that hit him. Haha. 2-hit 1. Keep going. In the large-scale skill collision just now, only the armor on Lucar's body was melted into black holes, while the other two were not harmed. There is no way. Now only Lucar of the three can cover the armed color, while the other two cannot cover the armed color. The aftermath of the large-scale collision between the two people just now was directly evaded by elementalization. Lucar, who was not elementalized, could only resist the final aftermath, but his defensive ability was even stronger, and he recovered in a flash. Because of this, Lucar was focused on by the two. He is too comprehensive, and the more powerful two-color hockey can invalidate their elementalization. Coupled with Pervert's defensive recovery ability, only the collision just now made the two directly make a decision to knock down Lucar first, otherwise the final result is likely to be lost by Lucar exhausted physically. Brother Lucar, your physical strength is too bad. Pelusolino, who had just been repulsed, moved forward with both hands, as if holding something in the air. A burst of light gleamed, and he drew a golden laser sword directly into the air. Sky Kong Yunjian, you can do this. When did you practice this hand? Seeing that Pelusolino's fruit abilities could be used in this way, Lucar couldn't help but admire a little. What this guy can see before is basically the use of fruit abilities, including physical skills and auxiliary fruit abilities. His physical skills are the weakest among the three. Unexpectedly, he hid this hand and started to connect. Fencing. Brother Lucar, it's coming. Before he could say anything, Pelusolino flashed directly above Lucar, smashing the laser sword in his hand with both hands. The current Pelusolino is simply an assassin with amazing speed and fascinating ghosts. Although this assassin is not hidden in darkness, the dazzling light all over his body also plays a role in hiding. When Lucar was dealing with Pelusolino's swordsmanship, Sakazuki was not idle either. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Sakazuki fell to the ground and hit the ground with both fists. Volcano. He thought that since Lucar was in the strongest state on the ground, he was forced to not stand on the ground and directly use his power to transform Lucar's location into a magma domain. Sakazuki has this skill, so he can think of creating the most suitable battle scene for himself. The sight and smell that has been turned on has of course observed the changes in the ground under his feet. Unfortunately, Sakazuki is facing himself with the fruits of the earth. In terms of controlling the ground, Sakazuki is compared to himself with a sword in front of Guangong. With a slap of both hands, the ground that had been transformed into a magma surface quickly closed on both sides of the ground farther away, and the so-called magma spirit jade was pressed back by him, directly strangling Sakazuki's purpose in the cradle. Chapter 86 Shelves Testimonials. Advertisement. I have been writing for more than a month. I didn't expect that I could write almost 20 words the first time I wrote a book. I broke a new record yesterday and my collection has exceeded 5,000. As an adorable novelist who writes a novel for the first time, the excitement is hard to describe. Before this, I was just like you, readers who like to read novels. At the beginning I suddenly wanted to write a novel, and I wrote the beginning of 2 novels at the same time. This is the first one, and it was posted directly on the platform. I never expected that I signed a contract directly. Thank you, Naipeng, for not disgusting me. I picked it up and wrote it down all the way, but it was going to be put on the shelf unknowingly. Here, I would like to thank all the big guys for your vote collection support, and also thanks to Kabuto, Zoma, Shuo Fengling, Yun Yunzi and other big guys in the book friend group for their encouragement and suggestions. Really, I don't have your encouragement. Can't believe it can be written to the shelves. Although it is only a small group of more than a dozen book friends, I still feel very warm and hope that we can continue to grow with this book. And to be honest, this data has exceeded my original expectations. Thank you very much for your support. Advertisement. Your support is the biggest motivation for me to write a book. Having said that, I know the detailed data of this book myself, and it is estimated that the subscription will not be too high after it is put on the shelves. It may be difficult to break 100, but looking at the collection of more than 5,000, I still look forward to hope and wonder whether it will break through their expectations. It's really stunned. I'll just code the words honestly. A few more chapters are still feedback to the readers of this book. Chapter 87 The End. Advertisement. Sakazuki, is this the only way? Easily resolve Sakazuki's ability to change the venue, Lucar taunted, not that he wanted to provoke him, but that he is now entangled by Pelusolino, and it is very stressful to cope with the joint pressure of the two. Especially in the battle between him and Pelusolino, he discovered for the first time how disgusting the opponent's fruit ability was. Relying on the fast movement, he could only resist passively, and could not touch this guy in the counterattack. Sakazuki is different. He is very strong in attack, but he doesn't have the pervert's dodge ability like the flash fruit, so he can only aim at him. Dog biting Gurren. In the face of provocation, Sakazuki remained unmoved and still used the medium and long-range skills to output in the original way. Hiss, is Sakazuki so stable? It's a bit difficult to do this time. Do you have to do this trick again? Facing the combination of the two, Lucar was repelled step by step. He was a little overwhelmed and stressed. The earth armor on his body was cracked little by little. Facing the powerful output ability of Flash Fruit and Lava Fruit, he no matter how hard the defense is, it can't bear it. Pelusalino saw Lucar's counterattack less and less, and more attention was focused on defense. The opponent's extremely hard armor was cracked one by one, and the eyes hidden in the sunglasses flashed a bright light. Can't hold it anymore. Speed is power, kicking at unlimited speed of light. In an instant, in a few tenths of a second, Lucar was surrounded by golden light, and Pelusalino's figure appeared in all his upper, lower, left, and right positions. Oh, how can it be so fast? It's too late. At this moment, Lucar only flashed this thought. He seemed to see a dozen Pelusalino appearing around him. This speed was completely beyond the time he could react. Boom. Obviously more than a dozen light speed legs kicked on Lucar, but because the speed was too fast, only a laser explosion could be heard. Pelusalino's sudden eruption even shocked Sakazuki in the distance. His action was a little slow. He couldn't dodge an attack of this speed. This speed is too fast and amazing. Cough. After the explosion, Lucar squatted on the spot, dripping blood from his body. In this battle, Lucar was actually injured for the first time in the true sense. Pelusalino seized the opportunity to be too good. He was stuck when his earth armor was about to be damaged but had not yet been damaged. There was no time for Lucar. Decisively attack the time period when the armor is restored. It's not bad. Wiping off the blood from his mouth, and a layer of armor recondensed on his body, Lucar slowly stood up. The fighting spirit in his eyes did not diminish, but was even stronger. This was the battle he was looking forward to. Everyone took out their true ability, and then this battle became meaningful. On the other side, Sakazuki was shocked just now, but of course he would not give up such a good offensive opportunity after reacting. Dark Hound. A group of scarlet magma fell from the sky, and a fist came out of this group of hot magma to hit him directly, and behind him, another golden laser sword appeared in an instant. Facing the chase of the two following them, Lucar only turned his eyes on Sakazuki and smiled. Finally waiting for you, let's go back to the starting point together. When he was slammed by Pelusalino just now, Lucar certainly didn't do nothing. When the laser exploded, he was preparing the follow-up combat method. Advertisement. Super Cliff Sword. He tried to save power from the underground in the previous battle, and the other two did not fall to the ground. It is difficult to detect the means from the underground. Lucar directly grabbed the laser sword from behind. A huge black and red hand grew on the ground to grab Pelusalino's body, while the other hand grabbed Sakazuki's fist directly, on both palms. The armor was directly destroyed by the laser and magma, and his flesh and blood began to burn, and the arm defense was somewhat unable to hold it. But the effect he wanted was achieved, and it was even better than he thought. I thought that Pelusalino would be able to escape, but he managed to control it. It seems that the previous high-speed attack has some side effects. Will slow down some reaction speed. Lucar UB********* D. Brother is too much. Sakazuki obviously felt something was wrong, but at this moment they couldn't break free of Lucar's control. Boom. The island shook violently again, and if the scattered plants on the island were just a little withered, they burned directly this time. This long accumulated big move finally came in handy. This time it was more powerful than when he was on Kola Island. After such a long time, Lucar's fruiting ability has also improved a lot. Damn it, what is Lucar doing? Do you want to die together? This time Zephyr, who was on the outside, also couldn't stand it anymore. He never expected Lucar to be so top and directly used this method. He was watching a good show just now when he saw that Lucar had some losses. He didn't care that Lucar was besieged, but looked forward to his counterattack, but Zephyr didn't want to see this kind of counterattack. Zephyr, why don't you go down and take a look? Sengoku was also a little worried. The situation at the scene exceeded his expectations. The original plan was to show everyone the strength of the new generation of strong men, but he didn't even think about letting any of them suffer in this kind of battle. If Zephyr and Sengoku are only worried about the situation of the three on the court, all the other Marines on the scene, including Vice Admiral present, they are truly shocked. These battle-tested Vice Admiral all feel the terrible of the three, even thinking about the possibility of surviving if they end. Not to mention the weaker recruit students and Marine soldiers. In the fierce impact on the scene, they all doubted whether the three in the middle of the battlefield were really their seniors. They might really grow up a year after graduation. At this point, rather than three top Vice Admiral in the field to compete. All this is beyond their imagination. Many trainees in the training camp have a trace of admiration in their eyes looking in the direction of the three on the battlefield. Bullet, is it really okay for Commodore to use this way of fighting? Kuzan has long been overwhelmed by the strength of the trio. Anyway, his current strength is completely incomparable, so ask the Bullet next to him at this time. And Bullet didn't have the relaxed look before, with a dignified look on his angular face. The captain is a bit on the top. At least the captain can still carry this level of power. I don't know the situation of the other two. I hope the captain will not use the strongest trick. It will be troublesome if it loses control. Kuzan turned his head to look at Bullet in surprise, as if he couldn't believe what the other person said. Boulder Commodore's defense can resist this kind of power. Do you think there are stronger methods? Bullet nodded, looked at the direction where Nishizawa was on the other side, who was also dignified, and sighed leisurely. Oh, yes, I don't know if Major Nishizawa reminded the captain that he hoped that the captain would not use it indiscriminately. When that trick was only an experiment, I almost died in the aftermath. Thinking of the previous experience, Bullet said with lingering fear. Chapter 88 Smash Bros. Advertisement. Ahem, Lucar, you lunatic. Brother, this trick is really terrible. Hee hee, let's just allow you two to play one. Now it's not balanced. Everyone is back to the starting point. The three of them slowly stood up from three directions. The battlefield was still covered by dust from the aftermath of the explosion, and the state of the three of them could not be seen clearly, but it was conceivable that it would certainly not be too good. Hi, how come this power is getting bigger and bigger? Lucar couldn't help but spit out himself. As he developed more and more devil fruit, the power of the fruit ability he exerted also increased. I glanced up and down myself, but fortunately, all his limbs were complete, but he looked a little embarrassed. A lot of meat on the chest and arms were destroyed by the explosion, and the white bones were all exposed, looking terrible. He glanced at the other two people with his insight. Lucar nodded his head in satisfaction. The other two's condition was not much better than his. Now the three of them are in the same state as they were when they were shown to the schoolboys on the platform. It is not an exaggeration to say that they are tramps, and their clothes are all broken. It's just that this world seems to have a protection rule for clothes. With this degree of explosion, there are still a lot of clothes on their bodies, and they didn't let the three naked in front of everyone. This kind of fighting method of returning to the starting point together was developed when he played against three big pirates on Kola Island. When he was in a difficult situation, he directly used this method to let everyone follow him to accept the Big Bang. To withstand this kind of damage together, it depends on who is more resistant, so that some enemies whose defenses are not as good as his can be eliminated. Facts have proved that in terms of his own strongest defensive recovery ability, this fighting method is particularly suitable for him. It directly allows the three of them to return to the original starting point together, all seriously injured. No one is better than anyone. Continue. There was only one Marine, who seemed a little nasty, not so gregarious, did not speak, and seemed to acquiesce to this result. A golden laser swiftly shuttled across the battlefield, attacking back and forth, directly attacking the two of them. This time, Pelusolino did not intend to play 2-on-1, and directly adopted the 1-on-2 approach. Neither Sakazuki nor Lucar let it go. It seems that the silent Marine responded directly to his decision with action. Haha, come on, the next big fight begins. A huge stone wall was erected all around, and finally a huge rock fortress was formed, enclosing the three people directly in the stone wall. HMPH, then come on, Zuohei Great Eruption. The battlefield was calm for a while after the Big Bang, and immediately moved. The situation is not only Lucar's head, but now the three of them have completely angered and started fighting. Seeing the movement on the battlefield, Zephyr and Sengoku breathed a sigh of relief. Since they can still fight, it means that they still have combat power, and they have not been directly damaged by the explosion. Although they couldn't see the concrete situation inside the stone wall, the shaking of the island has never stopped. Occasionally, a huge magma group or a laser beam flew from the stone wall, punching holes in the stone wall. Let Marine watching the battle know that the battle is not over, and that more intense battles are still going on. It lasted for several hours, and the sky began to darken, when everyone felt that the battle had become stalemate and could not end for a short time. The temperature of the already hot island rose again, and the frost on Kuzan, the place to watch the battle, began to melt this time. Two uncomfortable people used moonwalk to fly into the sky, and a group of onlookers rushed to the seaside warship. It's over. I blame me for not reminding Lucar in advance. Teacher Zephyr, let everyone return to the warship. It was Nishizawa and Bullet who rose into the air with moonwalk. The two of them seemed to have known what would happen next. Zephyr felt something was wrong when the battlefield started new changes. When Nishizawa reminded him, he guessed what Lucar would do, and immediately announced the order. Advertisement. Everyone, listen to my orders. All the Marines who don't know moonwalk will withdraw to the warship, and those who will moonwalk will fly. Sengoku, hurry up and order. Lucar's B*********** D is crazy. I will stop him. Following Zephyr's sudden order, the other Marines didn't know what was going on. Fortunately, the army's execution ability was relatively good. After a brief period of confusion, they retreated from the high slope and returned to the warship in an orderly manner, meeting the generals of Moonwalk. They all flew into the air and continued to look at the battlefield curiously, wondering what had happened to make Zephyr give the order to retreat. Dark Hound. A scarlet figure sprang out from the stone wall, and another golden figure flew out following it. Lucar, you fellow. Brother actually still has this method, it's really terrible to pinch. It was Sakazuki and Pelusolino who came out of the battlefield. At this time, both of them looked down solemnly. Haha, if you continue to fight like this, you can't match my resilience, so it's better to make a direct hit to decide the victory or defeat. Lucar flew out of the stone wall, and then stood on the top stone wall, looking up at the two men, his eyes flickering, thinking about whom he was targeting. Bullet in the distance locked his gaze directly on Lucar's hand and exhaled. Huh, I thought the captain was crazy, but unfortunately, I didn't participate in it. His expression was a bit complicated. On the one hand, he was relieved that the captain was not completely crazy, on the other hand, it was a pity that he had no chance to join this level of battle. Bullet, what's wrong? A question came, and Bullet followed the sound, and saw an extra long icicle erected under Kuzan's feet, pushing Kuzan into the sky. Hee, you didn't leave. Look at it, you'll find out later. Bullet looked at Kuzan's movements and laughed directly, and flashed to his side. This icicle ability could not protect him. No off-field actions were affected on the battlefield, and Lucar quickly turned his attention to Sakazuki. Alas, Sakazuki, I'm sorry, although I have accepted your love before, but this time I can't release the water. Only you are the better hit here. Feeling Lucar's gaze, Sakazuki's face turned dark. He knew that the B*********** D had aimed at him again. What exactly was this, and how did it feel that it was more powerful than the previous Big Bang? Sakazuki's eyes fixed on Lucar's right hand, he could feel the huge energy there from a distance, and even felt a touch of death. This was the most threatening time since the battle. He didn't know he can't take this trick. Just as Lucar's knee bent slightly and he was about to rush towards Sakazuki, an unexpected figure appeared among the three. Ms. Zephyr. Yes, Zephyr rushed to the battlefield, looking at Lucar's movements, his face was rather ugly. Stop for me, I declare that this battle is over. Ms. Zephyr, why are you here? Why is the battle over? Lucar suddenly announced the end of the battle to Zephyr. This result made him a little unacceptable. There is probably only one opportunity for him to compete with Sakazuki. The three of them will definitely be much stronger in the future. Whether it is a busy mission or an increased destructive power, it is unlikely that the headquarters will organize another battle like this, and it is difficult for them to make an appointment to fight, at least. Russolino is unlikely to be involved. Why? Do you still ask me why? You look at the current situation of the island. Zephyr said angrily. He knew that this sudden end would be a pity for the three of them, but for Marine, the goal that should be achieved has been achieved. In addition to Lucar's behavior, he can only take this the battle ended. Chapter 89 Seeking subscription. Advertisement. Lucar looked around the island. The island has become a huge oven. Currently, there are no plants on the island, all of which have been burned to ashes. In the aftermath of several battles, the island has been riddled with holes, especially Lucar's giant cliff sword, which drew a lot of land from the center of the island. At this time, I discovered how amazing the destructive power of the battle between the three is. Even a solid island with mineral composition is a bit overwhelming. Hiss, have we been fighting for so long? This mine island can actually be beaten like this, but fortunately it is still relatively strong, at least it hasn't been destroyed to the grassroots level like Kola Island and almost sank. Teacher Zephyr, this won't stop the fighting, can we continue? Lucar still felt unwilling, especially since none of the three of them had been knocked to the ground. He always felt that the battle could continue. Hee, look at your right hand. If it weren't for the big movement you made, I wouldn't have come to interfere now. Are you trying to sink us all into the sea? Zephyr points to his right hand. Yeah, brother, how did you practice this trick? It's really terrible. Pelusolino was also surprised to look at Lucar. If it weren't for the prelude that Lucar made at the end was so dynamic, it would put a lot of pressure on him and Sakazuki, forcing them to force them directly from the stone wall fortress. Break out. Don't worry, as long as you hit Sakazuki and adjust the direction, it will not destroy the island. I believe I can do it. Lucar directly explained to the two of them that he really thought so, as long as the direction of the outbreak is adjusted, instead of directly bombing this deserted island, it should not be directly sunk. What he didn't notice was that Sakazuki's face became darker when he heard the explanation just now, and he stared at his movements vigilantly, seeming to prevent his surprise at any time. Yep, Zephyr was a little speechless when he heard this answer, with question marks on his face. Do you mean to kill Sakazuki? Brother, such a big hatred. Pelusolino on the side was also a little confused. He remembered that just 10 days ago, the three had a leisurely party together, and if he remembered correctly, Sakazuki was still reminding Lucar to relieve the two. The relationship between people was a little bit stiff before. It has only been a short period of time, is it going to be a killer? He can't understand this scene a bit. Kill Sakazuki. How is it possible? I think Sakazuki should be able to resist. I haven't killed myself with this trick before. Sakazuki must be fine. Since we rarely have this kind of opportunity, of course we have to go all out. In order to show my respect for you. It's okay for Lucar to not defend himself. As soon as he explained, the expressions of the other three also became a little bad, and their hearts were roaring. You think everyone has the same pervert physique as you? Even Logia Devil Fruit did not pervert to this level. Needless to say, I officially announced as the person in charge of this operation that this battle is over. Lucar, you can shed this power. Hearing Zephyr's words, Lucar's expression suddenly changed, as if they had been chatting for several minutes, raised their right hand, and a trace of horror flashed in the eyes of their index finger. Ms. Zephyr, it's over. I can't take it back. I must use this explosive force, otherwise it will explode on me in the end. When the other three heard these words, Chi-Chi's expression changed. No one thought that Lucar's hidden tricks could be put away or not received. After the duration is reached, it actually bombs itself directly. This method is a madman-like behavior in their eyes. The use of this trick is either you die or the result of mine. Advertisement. You can't take it back. Don't use this method indiscriminately. Otherwise, you are likely to suffer. Use it upwards. Zephyr gave his advice. He didn't like this uncontrolled ability. No, I have to have contact with this trick, and I can't release it remotely. Just after Lucar finished this sentence, he suddenly realized that his index finger was about to explode. The body injuries in the previous battle made his armament hockey control a little unstable, and the time has now reached the time node of 5 minutes. When the two factors were superimposed, Lucar found that the reality was beyond his control. The improvement of his original Devil Fruit ability and his armament hockey increased the power of his ability. Hi, it seems too late, you guys will fly to the sky. Found that the situation was not right, everything came too suddenly, Lucar only had time to shout to remind him, and was forced to squat down directly, with his index finger pointing at the top of the stone wall where he was originally standing. Starburst. At this moment, this deserted island flashed a dazzling red light, directly illuminating the entire island. With this huge shock wave, the stone wall couldn't even resist for a second, it was directly penetrated and hit the desert island ground directly below the stone wall. Boom. After the loud noise of this shock wave, a huge clicking sound appeared. No way. Zephyr was a little lost seeing this scene, and said in a soft voice that even as a top powerhouse, he was a little frightened by Lucar's destructive power. Even if he wants to sink an island, it is not so easy. The power of Lucar's move has already touched the power of the world's top powerhouse. Fortunately, Lucar did not improve his ability to this level when he started experimenting at the training camp before graduation, otherwise the training camp may no longer exist, and even the naval headquarters will be affected. After a loud noise and shaking, the entire island cracked. At the cracks, the underground magma on the seabed was stimulated from above and sprayed directly from the cracks, and finally began to divide into pieces of broken islands. At least half of the land area of the original island was directly sunk, leaving only a few broken and ultra-small islands floating on the sea, becoming the final proof of the existence of the original mine island. Thanks. This kind of thing can really be done. When the island was cracking and shaking, Kuzan's condensed icicles were directly broken. He finally knew why Bullet had just flashed to his side. It turned out that the other party already knew the ending. I just know the power of the captain's ability, but I didn't expect the captain to sink the island. Bullet held Kuzan's arm with his hand to prevent him from falling. At present, the opponent cannot moonwalk and can't fly. If he falls into the sea below, there is really no way to save him. He is also a capable person, but he doesn't have this ability. Into the sea Vice Admiral Kuzan fished up. On the other side, the sinking of the island caused huge waves. Fortunately, when Sengoku discovered that something was not right, he pulled away all the generals such as Vice Admiral who were still watching the show, broke the waves with hard power, and protected dozens of warships. Come down. A glimmer of fortune flashed in Sengoku's heart. If it hadn't been the last to organize these generals to watch together, otherwise so many warships and marines would not know how much damage they would suffer. Then he complained to Lucar. He was optimistic about the favor of this young marine, but it was cleared in an instant. It seems that this marine is not only like Garp in justice, but also not weaker than Garp in terms of doing things. Now Sengoku has hooked the word, trouble, to Lucar. Chapter 90 Results Seeking Subscription. Advertisement. That, Teacher Zephyr. Lucar faltered and looked at Zephyr. At this time, Nishizawa was not by his side. He was a little overwhelmed by the scene he had created, especially when there were a large number of Marines watching the game this time. It seems a bit too much, this mine island is too weak, but fortunately there were no casualties, otherwise the crime would be serious. When he discovered that the island was sinking, he had already checked observation hockey on the side of the onlooker Marine, and sensed that the warship and personnel there were still safe, otherwise he didn't know how to face it. The other three people watched all this in silence, and were shocked by the power of Lucar's trick. Oh, let's go back and talk about it. Zephyr broke the silence and sighed. Now it's useless to say anything. The island is sunk. What can he say? This action is still mentioned by him. He has already done a good job facing the sky. The Marshal's plan. No matter what, all the consequences should be borne by him. Lucar only conducted this battle according to his arrangement, but somewhat underestimated the destructive power of these people. Brother Lucar, is this the power of immune to death Sakazuki you said? Your guarantee is not very reliable. Now that it was all over, Pelusolino's expression returned to its original state, teasing the two. Humph. Sakazuki snorted coldly, dissatisfied with Pelusolino's ridicule. Of course, it was Lucar who was even more unhappy. This guy really doesn't know his destructive power. If he is really hit by this level of power, it's hard to say whether he can survive. He doesn't want to try it himself, he will know when he sees this island. Ha ha ha, I haven't used this trick for a long time. I haven't calculated the power of this trick. You can see how my fingers are like this. Lucar scratched his head a little embarrassedly, raised his right hand, and showed them all the cracked index finger bones. You are ashamed to say, hurry up. Zephyr urged that for these people, he would no longer arrange a battle between the three of them. Let them deal with the pirates, and let the group of pirates bear all this. Captain, are you all right? When the four of Lucar flew in the direction of the warship, Bullet saw a few movements and leaned towards them. Haha, I'm fine, it's this island that is in trouble, why are you here? Seeing Bullet approaching, Lucar smiled and responded to his crew. Haha, Captain, next time there is this kind of battle, I must not be left behind. It's a shame that I don't have a chance this time. Bullet looked at the Sakazuki too fiercely. Is it a Lucar again? Seeing Bullet becoming more and more reckless like Lucar, Zephyr felt a headache, but thinking that they had already graduated, Sengoku and the others would have headaches in the future. Thinking like this, my heart instantly balanced a lot. But what he didn't notice was that Kuzan, who was grasped by Bullet, did not know why. An inexplicable fighting spirit rose from his heart, his eyes locked directly on Sakazuki. It seemed that when he saw this person, there was a desire to fight. Sakazuki did the same. He didn't care about Bullet's eyes, but the other gaze he felt made him look at Kuzan. He also had the idea of wanting to compete and frowned. Advertisement. Does this guy seem to be a new training camp student? It seems interesting. Just when he was in a trance, a slap fell on his shoulder, and a generous face appeared beside him. Sakazuki, I really didn't control it this time. I will pay attention next time. Finally, thank you. The next sentence of Lucar was spoken in a voice that only the two of them could hear. Yes, as early as the day after the party of the three of them was over, he approached Nishizawa to help analyze the scene at the time. The greatest possibility was that Sakazuki was expressing reconciliation to him. Although he still didn't understand Sakazuki's view of absolute justice, he was still willing to accept this reconciliation. After all, the two only had their own understanding of the view of justice, which resulted in some conflicts. Lucar appreciates the overall impression of the guy Sakazuki. Like him, this guy is definitely an outstanding pure soldier. He is no less in love with the profession of a soldier than himself. Humph. With a cold snort, Sakazuki was a little dissatisfied with Lucar's last act of locking him, and felt that in the eyes of the other party, he was inferior to the lazy guy Pelusolino. Regarding the final skill power exceeding the standard, he did not care. As Lucar said, the best respect for the opponent is to go all out in the battle, he does not need others to release the water. When he heard Lucar's last thank you, Sakazuki's fierce face softened slightly. The speed of the crowd was very fast. After a few minutes, they all came to the warship where Sengoku was located. They simply bandaged their wounds and all went to the highest-ranking Sengoku in the fleet to report. In the cabin, the space inside the large warship was originally large enough, but with the influx of Lucar and the generals of naval headquarters, it suddenly became a bit crowded. These generals also shocked the three of them. Before they came, they all looked at the Lucar 3 with the eyes of the younger generation. Now none of them still looks at it like this. Regarding the strength of the three of them, it can be said that they have surpassed many of them, and it is no longer appropriate to treat them with the attitude of looking at the younger generation. When I came in this time, I also wanted to see the attitude of Sengoku Admiral, so as to facilitate their later treatment. Ah, I didn't expect all of you to come over. Sengoku swept the whole room. It seems that all Marines above the rank of Admiral of the fleet came here and took off the frog glasses they were wearing with their hands. Alright, since they are all here, let me also announce the result. First of all, there were some errors in the recruitment ceremony at the end, which led to the direct sinking of this abandoned mine island. Fortunately, there was no loss of personnel, so I will not continue to talk about it. That's it. I am satisfied with the performance of the three outstanding Marines, Lucar, Sakazuki, and Pelusolino on the whole. They have fully demonstrated the strength of the best students who graduated from the first recruit training camp. It did a good display and also showed the strength of the new generation for this department. I still need to praise it. Finally, I hereby announce that the third recruitment training camp recruitment ceremony is officially over. Lucar, you guys, wait until you return to the headquarters before assigning you the next tasks. Now you go back and cultivate. I hope you will become the backbone of the headquarters. End. The meeting is over. The announcement of Sengoku's meeting was very quick. There was no discussion, and no punishment was imposed on the three Lucars. Instead, they were encouraged and praised. It seems that this operation is completely over, and some specific follow-up changes will not appear here. Following Sengoku's brief announcement of the result, everyone slowly walked out of the cabin. Many Marine generals at the headquarters flashed their eyes when they left. They were talking softly to each other, and from time to time they raised their heads and looked at Lucar 3. People and the figure of Zephyr Admiral.